welcome to my world. I'm your host, Kevin Rutherford. It is Monday, January 13th. We're here live. It's time to find out what's going on in the industry, what's happening with rates and lanes. And to help us out with that this morning, as always, my co-host from truckstop.com, Brent Hutto. Brent, good morning.
Good morning, KR. You know, back in the day when we started all this, I was known as Dr. Feelgood. So we got to get back to Dr. Feelgood.
Well,
but I'm doing great, man. Had a great weekend.
The thing is, Brent, you've got to earn that title. You've got to bring us stuff to feel good about.
Well, you know, I'm optimistic about the year especially for owner operators. So
good.
Well, hopefully we can get there. That'd be great if we could get there. So
well, let's talk about
good
that
stuff, man. And lots.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Let's just start the show with that today. What kind of signals are you seeing? You've got access to all the data there, and you're out in the real world as well at conferences and always talking to people and meeting with people. So what are you seeing? Big picture kind of stuff.
Well, big picture. Usually, this first sort of really week that we get back into trucking, where we get past the holiday, just the holiday change. The marketplace changes in the holidays. Rates go up a bit. Because less truckers are on the road. And so usually all starts balancing back out this first week. But interestingly enough, and this may be a Dr. Feelgood moment a little bit, not quite to get to that perch, but maybe in the future. But rates usually modulate back. They go back down during this week. In other words, they kind of come back down to what they normally were prior to all the holidays. But they actually went up. So very interestingly, they went up, and they. Let me kind of go through this with you. First off, the market demand, the pressure in the marketplace went up by about 25 points, went from 67 to 95, which 95 would be really large. Now, that may just be the balance. That's the balance between available freight and trucks. We have not looked at the freight availability yet. I can look at that here just really quickly. But I'll say this. The overall rate in the marketplace went down 1 penny, but that's not the story. The story is the van marketplace went up 2 more cents in the spot market. So since December 15th, it's gone up 8 cents. Now that's pretty remarkable in the van marketplace.
Yeah, it is.
So that's one thing. Flatbed, Kev, has been at 225 to 223, 226. For the last many weeks. So it didn't change much, and it doesn't. The industrials segment, and that's what flatbed is, housing, larger, heavier things, more things that people move to build other things. That hadn't changed, but that didn't change much on the holidays. It usually doesn't. Refrigerated is the one that really makes you just go, things that make you want to go, remember that old song?
Yeah.
But December 15th, which is 4 weeks ago, refrigerated rates in the spot market were $2.43. Last week, that's the average. Last week they averaged $2.73.
Wow,
that's 30 cents. Yeah, wow. That's 30 cents, and this is why I'm a little Dr. Feelgoodish this morning, because I'm like, the two sort of dominant segments of the market, van being what most of the freight in the marketplace, in the long haul marketplace, goes in a van. If you combine traditional flatbed and specialized, you get about 25% of the market. So it kind of depends on the mix that you're looking at on just the long haul segment. Overall, van is the dominant segment, but there's a lot of different distances that it's hauled. But in the long haul segment, van's about 45, flatbed and specialized about somewhere between maybe about 30, and the other 20 or something percent is kind of really in the refrigerated market. So they're kind of two common consumer markets went up dramatically. So that's really one of the things that had me sort of optimistic about today, Kevin.
Yeah, absolutely. The numbers are really looking good, and like you mentioned, for this time of the year, even better. There's a lot of other stuff potentially going on as well. I am expecting to see some pretty major changes a week from today, right?
Well, you're talking about an inauguration.
Yeah,
So,
and I'm
yeah, I think,
expecting a flurry of executive orders. In fact, I think they're all written already. I think he's been working on
I
them
think
all ahead of
yeah.
time, and it's just a matter of pressing the button on Monday, I think.
Yeah, I think you're going to see. At least President Trump has promised that these executive orders will come in, and I think a lot of them will be opening up energy production in the United States, taking regulations off things, which will hopefully have the marketplace flow more, just in general, and things that will encourage inflation to begin to come down. Because what's interesting about the good rates in the marketplace. And by the way, the market demand index going up from 67 to 95 is really just a function of that there's a ton more freight in the marketplace, because there wasn't a lot of freight posted between December 23rd and January 3rd. So it's just not. That's just normal depression. So, but my point is, I think what you're going to find, at least, and this is what, I'm 57 years old. It's when the American public is optimistic, the largest economy in the world begins to crank its engine up, and when people are positive. Yeah. And here's the thing, and I remember and I don't know if we talked about this last week, man. I think we did for a second, but there's more optimism in the people that have money that want to loan it to people or want to invest in others to kind of build businesses. There's a whole lot more optimism going on in that part of the market, and when that part of the market opens up, you start seeing investment into businesses, because businesses can get investors to come in and be a part of their business to help them grow their business or build a business. So it's interesting to see what's going on.
Yeah, it is. Couple directions I want to go with this. From about 2018 on, when I started thinking, the downturn's got to be right around the corner. My mantra, I repeated it over and over and over, was pay debt, save cash. And we did
Absolutely.
it here. We did it personally. We did it as a business. And, when you measure something and focus on it, it improves. And it did. I mean, I can look at both our personal and our business cash from 2018 on was getting bigger. And then when COVID hit and everything was just up in the air, we had never experienced anything like that in our lifetime. The shift then was wherever you are, stop paying down debt and just save cash. Even if you have to pay minimums on your debt, which I was recommending to people, there's so many unknowns here. You're just better off holding on to the cash right now. It's going to cost you a little bit in interest, but you're better off to have that available cash, if the worst case scenario happens, which is where we've been ever since. And our revenues are down for several reasons. We lost SiriusXM during that time, so that was a huge hit to our revenues. And then the economy slowed down, and I was telling owner-operators, be really conservative right now. Look at what you spend money on. Do you really need to spend money on it? Don't make any big decisions. And at the same time, when I tell them not to spend money, that includes our store. So they weren't spending money with us at the same pace either. So that's kind of hard to come on the air every day and say, hey, be careful what you spend money on, and then watch our numbers go down every month. But they did. And now I'm getting ready to shift the mantra. I mean, if you've done that, if you were paying down debt and saving cash during that time, if you were just conservative over the last couple of years, and hopefully you've got some cash reserves left, I think we're getting to the point where it might be time to start investing back into the business again.
Yeah, I would definitely say now's the time to do that. I would say also, and when you talked about keeping cash available, it's also time to sort of right the ship in a lot of ways inside of your business, and make sure that you've got things in proper balance. And I kind of go back to what you and I have talked about so many times. It's really, and when you have down markets, it's an opportunity for you to invest some in your business. In other words, know where you're spending money, how you're spending it. Are you utilizing your capital the best way? In other words, you have the best rate for your fixed expenses, certainly like something like insurance, which went up dramatically last year. Are you getting the best efficiency in your truck, which is your biggest expense, the fuel going out every single mile that you drive? And so I just think about, are you really focusing on those things that create great efficiency, which help give you, in every scenario, no matter how you paint it, it's the better efficiency you have, the more profitability you have, no matter what freight you're hauling where.
Yeah, absolutely. Sometimes I forget to even say that, so I'm glad you brought it up. That to me is a given in every market. With some exception, and I'll just explain. This gets more nuanced, but when things are, we're heading into the downturn, and in the downturn, a heavy focus on efficiency. And one of the reasons you might be able to do that is you might have more time. You just
for sure you do.
And every penny becomes critical then. Now, when times are booming, it's not that we just want to, not be efficient, but it becomes a smaller priority. Hopefully, we've already worked on efficiency, and now we can just kind of keep an eye on it. We don't have to really work at it. And when things are booming, then it's time to go chase the revenue. Maybe we're driving faster. We talk about this all the time. Everybody thinks I'm the guy that just tells everybody to go slow for fuel mileage. Well, I do, because it's like sometimes they don't even think about it. But in reality, my approach to this and my strategy has always been, this is not one size fits all even for the same operation.
Oh, no. Right.
Your speed should be based on the rate that you're on, how much freight is available,
right,
and how much time you have. If you've got time to go slow, then go slow. But if the rates are great, and we'd have to throw fuel price in there. If the rates are great and fuel prices are low, hammer down. Get the job done, and maybe you pick up an extra load here and there because of it, and your revenue goes up. The opposite, if fuel's high and freight's cheap, then you really, really need to slow down and plan better and manage your time better. So it's a really nuanced kind of thing. It's not just either go slow or go fast. We were talking about this on Friday, and we talk about it a lot. The beauty of the new drivetrains, the new modern trucks we're dealing with now, and we talk a lot about Volvo because they're just a leader in this. We can now spec a truck that has 3 available gears for highway speeds. That was unheard of before.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So
it was, yeah.
Yeah, 3. It's because of the new transmissions and the new drive lines and the new technology. It used to be you either spec'd a truck to get really good fuel mileage when you were going slow, which was what I did, because in my operation I could run at 57 miles an hour. So I spec'd the truck to run 57. If you went 65, the fuel mileage dropped a lot. If you're over the road and you're going to have to go faster, it was always a compromise. Sure, we can spec it to get better fuel economy than it would if we didn't spec it right at the higher speeds, but you're never going to get the best at those speeds. So it was always this balancing act, and you might spec a truck for one operation, and then we all know your operation can change. The beauty now is with this new Volvo driveline, specifically Max right there too. Freightliner's just a little behind on this. PACCAR just doesn't give us this option at all anymore. We can spec a truck that'll get the best fuel economy for that setup at 55, and we can also, in that same truck, be able to run 75 as efficient as possible.
Wow.
Yeah. It's
I'm
really
with you.
nice.
I'm with you on this. It never hurts for your truck to be efficient, period. So if you can cheat the wind, whether you're running 55 or whether you're running 70, the wind is the wind. So if you can cheat it the best way possible to get your best return if you're going to drop 70. You
Yeah.
know, so yeah, I agree with you on the rate opportunity. You need to make sure that the rate opportunity is what you want it to be. And I look at the marketplace. I just looked at the load postings for last week, and loads were up from the previous week 16.6%.
Wow.
And above normal, above the 5-year normal. So I always look at the 5-year normal when it comes to load postings. They were almost 15% above the 5-year normal. So my point is that there's more freight in the marketplace right now than there was last week, and it'll stay that way. So it'll be interesting to see how the optimism. Now, granted, part of this, with the more freight in the United States, like for instance, you were talking about the marketplace. I was just reading about Mexico and tariffs. Mexico is putting tariffs on goods coming into their country now. They're increased it to 25%. So this is to keep other marketplaces from dominating their marketplace. And I know that sounds a little funny because Mexico is always open for manufacturing, but the way in which China has tried to invest into Mexico can hurt their economy, and so they're being very cautious about this. So they impose these tariffs. But what's interesting is that two very, very large major players, C.H. Robinson and TQL, both have invested heavily into warehousing in and around the border of Mexico and the United States. So they can start to gather more of these goods that are coming in because Mexico is our largest trading partner. So they're taking advantage of it. So that's why when you look at like the major, like the biggest, the most profitable routes because I look at these things, I look at the top 5 routes or the percentage of change of profitability in those routes. Most all of them in the last 6 months have been out of Texas to somewhere, which means they're coming. All the goods that are coming from Mexico going to Texas. So it's been interesting to see more and more things change. Also, this was interesting. I don't know if you saw this. The length of haul has decreased some.
I didn't see that
overall in the marketplace. That was interesting. That was in FreightWaves as well. They talked about the length of haul decreasing 8% year over year. Now, last year it went up 7%, so it kind of came down 8%. So is it a balance? I don't know, but what I can tell you is that there's, because of e-commerce and because of some way in which some of the larger fleets are moving some of their long-haul trucks to dedicated trucks, which a dedicated truck can oftentimes have a much shorter haul to it because it's a round trip all the time. It's decreased the actual length of haul, which is kind of interesting. In the marketplace.
In my opinion, that's always a good thing for us. If we can keep rates good, and here's the thing: it's always driven me crazy about this industry. Remember when there was like 37 different little digest-sized recruiting magazines in the racks at the truck stops?
Of course. Randall Raleigh sold. We bought a lot of those companies and sold a lot of those things. I remember those things, absolutely.
That's kind of how I got my start. I mean, one of the first things I did in the industry to be known was, Brad Bentley.
Oh, he's a good friend, absolutely.
Yeah, Brad, it was Driving Force, right? Driving Force magazine was the one he was the editor of?
Yep.
Yeah, so I had this idea that I needed to be kind of known because I was already doing taxes and accounting for owner-operators, and I didn't have any money to market. So this will tell you how long ago it was. I wrote an article. I thought I'll write an article about taxes and owner-operators, and I faxed it out to all of those magazines. And I got, and there was a lot of them back then. And I hit the big magazines, Overdrive and all the others, and I got one response back. And it was Brad at Driving Force, and he said, look, I don't have any money. He said, but I want to put your article in. And he said, if you can write more like this, I'll actually give you a column every month. And he said, opposite your column, I'll give you a full-page ad. I'm like, well, that's a deal. I'll figure out something to write every month. So where was I going with that whole thing? I got 16 notes down in front of me, and I forgot Which one I was?
we were talking about the length of haul change.
Oh, yeah. So those magazines used to make me crazy because every ad they were all just recruiting magazines, right? I mean, that's all those things were.
Right.
And the good ones would at least put some information like my column and some other stuff. But for the most part, it was page after page of recruiting ads for fleets. And they all said the same thing. More miles, more miles. And I kept thinking, who wants to work more? I just want more money. I want more profit. I don't want more work.
Right.
But that mindset got driven into us to the point where that's what everybody talked about and bragged about. Well, I do 150,000 miles a year. Well, if you're doing that much, I really, really hope they're profitable. And many times they weren't because we focused on the wrong thing. We just focused on more work rather than more productivity and profit.
Right. Got it. Yeah. Well, and what's interesting too, and this is another thing, kind of goes back to knowing your numbers. All hauls aren't the same. Like, for instance, I was talking to Noah Perry, Truckstop's chief economist, about this, and he said, well, if you go 2,000 miles west from the center point, so let's just say you go 1,500 miles west from the center point of the United States, you have a certain cost. If you go 1,500 miles east, it's a completely different cost because of tolls
fuel
and all
prices,
the things that get into it. He goes, it's not comparable. So you really need to understand what you're hauling, where, and the cost structure of that distance.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And it comes back to knowing your numbers. And we've got some pretty darn exciting things in the works around that. So I've thrown out some teasers on that, but that's moving fast. That whole project is kind of taking over my days right now, and that wasn't
really?
on my agenda. But I can't pass it up. It's one of those things where
right.
I had goals, and you outline them, and here's the steps, and here's what I have to work on every day, and I kind of filled up my schedule. Plus, I've added a ton of new. I'm doing a lot more on airtime, not so much on this platform, and this app is pretty much the same because I do 2 to 3 hours 5 days a week, but we've got some new ability on our membership site, the Let's Truck Tribe site.
Right.
I can live stream in there. So I'm doing a Tuesday.
Oh, yes, I've seen it. Yes,
have you? Oh, okay, good. Yeah, I do a Tuesday,
I see
Thursday
it on Instagram.
morning.
It comes up on Instagram all the time. Yeah.
Oh, good. Yeah, we're just calling it Coffee with Kevin because I have no idea what every morning's going to be till I don't pre-plan anything on that. I just wake up on tomorrow morning. Okay. I'll just get up nice and early like I've been and start working on things and whatever I feel like talking about. We might be talking about hunting for all I know, or anything, whatever I might be working on, how I slept the night before. We might talk a little politics if that's in the news. We might talk current events. Could be anything. So I'm doing 45 minutes Tuesday and Thursday on that. I have another one that I'm not sure why I didn't think of this before. If you go to our store online, I can't even keep up with it. Lisa runs all that, and we don't use a distributor because we have to keep our costs down really low. And because of the kind of products we work with, we have to work with really small companies. Like, we're almost always talking to the owner and founder of the company. And so to add new vendors is hard. I mean, it's a lot of work. It's negotiations. It's setting up new products. It's dealing with each. But Lisa has just been on a tear, and we have so many new products in there, I can't even begin to talk about them on the show, and I don't want to take airtime for that kind of stuff. So I'm doing this thing that's actually, I'm having fun with it. We just call it Product Showcase. No schedule. If I have, 20 minutes extra, I just might grab a product off the shelf and just go live in our member site, our tribe site, and just start talking about it.
Nice. Well, I mean, that's you're just continuing to to help the audience, to help the trucker know what's the opportunity. So how has you talking about the different products and stuff, how has that changed the purchase rate or the acceptance rate of your store and stuff? Because I know you said you had a reduction for a while.
Yeah, you know, it's hard to imagine that. I can't believe, but if you talk about something and let people know how great it is, they actually buy it. I should probably do more of that.
That's true.
Lisa works really hard to get all this stuff.
It's amazing how that happens.
I know. Lisa works really hard to get all that stuff in the store. And then she does some marketing, email, and some other things that she does, newsletters. But I should talk about these things more. I will say this. There is not a product in that store that I am not really proud of. We don't just go, that's why we don't use a distributor, because they just have random generic stuff. We work really hard to make sure if we're going to put a product in the store, there is a reason for it. And we've got pretty tough criteria. Anything food or supplement wise, I have a long list of ingredients that are absolute no-goes. I don't care how good this product is. There's got to be a real exception for me to allow anything on that list. So it's got to be super high quality. It's got to fit all of our criteria as far as health goes. And then customer service is important. That's the tough one. You know, you meet a new company, you want to believe that they've got good customer service, and sometimes, you know, that gets a little dicey. But it actually works when you let people know what a great product this is. They actually go buy it.
Wow. Yeah. Well, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
It all comes back to the quality. So I'm glad that you review them. That's encouraging. Hey, one more point of note about freight.
Yeah, I have one more thing on freight too before we get too far away from.
Yeah. Well, so another thing that continues to be this is actually why I'm optimistic about the freight marketplace. The measurement that I stumbled onto in the beginning of COVID, when everyone's asking me, what's going to happen? And so I started putting together all this rate information, and I called you about it, and you said, come on the show, let's talk about this, you know? And so it was, so I started looking at the connection between spot market conditions and the contract market conditions in relation to the outbound tender reject index, which is a Sonar product, it's a Sonar piece of data, which Sonar is owned by Freightways. And so what the outbound tender reject index is, it's a data point on the contract freight marketplace where, you know, how much freight is being rejected that was offered on a contract from a medium-sized or a large player in the marketplace. How much that freight is just kind of like, yeah, we're not going to move it at that rate that we offered to you, because, you know, most people in the marketplace don't know that contract in freight only means a handshake, right? The only thing that's a promise. Yes, sir. Let
me highlight that point, and then we'll come back here.
Yeah, go for it.
I think you would say I'm pretty well plugged into the trucking industry, right? In these aspects that matter, rates and all this stuff. When I first heard this tender reject index, outbound tender reject, I couldn't get my head around it. I'm like, what are they talking about? And here's why. Because on my end of the market, the small side, I never realized that happened. I thought, wait a minute, it's contract freight. If I have a contract, don't I have to go pull that? And when I had some direct freight, that was my mindset. I would have never, ever thought about not taking a load.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So it took me a while to get my head around this, but now that I understand it, this really is an interesting metric to watch.
Well, it really is. When you look at the contract, so for owner operators out there that don't, you don't play in the contract marketplace, so you don't have the greatest depth of knowledge in it. It's taken me a while to understand it. Is that what it is? It's a handshake contract because the carrier needs to sell their trucks to shippers to haul freight so they can get some certainty in the market, and the shipper, the manufacturer, needs to know that they can get their freight moved, but. And this is where you and I are always trying to provide clarity, Kevin, for owner operators in this market. that we all work in a supply and demand marketplace. It is a economic, 101 example of, a very, very, very large marketplace that is not controlled by the players of the market. It's controlled by the outside market, the U.S. economy. So the contract is a handshake because there are pieces of the puzzle inside of that contract that are dynamic. In other words, they go up, they go down, they go up, they go down. They never stay the same. And if it changes a lot, the carrier or the shipper has the right to come back to either party. In other words, the shipper can call the carrier and go, "Oh, the rates are a lot lower than they were 6 months ago. I need you to give me a lower rate because the market rates are lower."
Yeah.
Or the carrier can come back and go, "Well, the rates are higher right now, and I get the right to come back and negotiate that." Also, fuel changes, fuel prices change. So it's just a handshake because it's like a gentleman's agreement that I will haul your freight, considering that things don't change much. But if they change a lot, I get to renegotiate with you. So really, the outbound tender reject index, I like to call it the renegotiation index.
Oh,
that's what I call it.
I like that. Yeah.
Because to me, it makes more sense that way. Because even though right now, and by the way, the market balance for rejected freight, in other words, I'm not going to haul that freight at that rate, is about 5% of the freight that's negotiated within a contract. About 5% is the balance. If it's below that, you don't have a lot of negotiation ability. In other words, if contract rejections are 2%, the owner-operator is probably not going to have a lot of negotiation ability and things because the contract players are accepting pretty much all their freight. Right? So when they're accepting all their freight, there's not as much margin in the marketplace. When they're pushing back on it, well, that rejection rate will go above 5%. When it goes above 5%, some of that freight comes into the spot market, which means you get more volumes of available freight inside the spot market to move, which means prices will go up over time. Not immediately, not like week to week, but over like a quarter, they'll go up substantially. And that's what happened inside of the pandemic. We had so much freight to move in the same number of trucks, and the trucker could just dictate their price. My point, though, is I've been watching this, and I've been watching it for 4 years now. Has it been 4 years? Gee whiz, it's been 4 years.
I think so.
So, and for all of the market correction post-pandemic, it's been below 5. It's been 3. It's been 2. It's been 3. It's been 2. It's been just really low. That's like the normal. That's like the base, the very base of things. But about 16 weeks ago, 15, 16 weeks ago, or 4 months ago, it started moving up. And it went up, and it got to 5, and then it went above 5. And for the last 15 weeks, we have had the rejection index above 5%. And here's why I'm a little optimistic. 2 weeks ago, it was 7%. Last week, and because I'm always just 7 days in arrears, it was 8%. Well, that's good for owner operators because some of that freight's going to get pushed over to other providers, which are typically going to be brokers in the market. They're going to push that freight into the spot marketplace, and then the owner operators are going to carry it, which means they can negotiate for a higher rate because there's more freight in the market. So that's why I'm like, Dr. Feelgood may be making a little bit of a resurgence during the year of 2025. Right. Okay, I may need to get a little Motley Crue going, and get a little Dr. Feelgood once we start getting there.
I have a fun idea for us on this show then.
All right.
So let's go back to load postings. What would be a good baseline to use for that number? And what we're going to be doing is we're both optimistic. And so are a lot of other people. And we know the big shift might happen here in the next week. Let's establish a good baseline. And if you need some time to look through some numbers, we don't have to figure this out right now, but we'll pick a baseline. And then that's a number that and I'm going to write it down every week. When you call me on Monday, I'm going to write it down every week. And let's just follow that number going forward from whatever baseline you think is a good place to start from.
Yeah. And Mr. Rutherford, I've already done that. I've been doing that since day one because I took the baseline of the 5-year average on truck stop. And what I did is I took it pre-pandemic. I didn't take it during the pandemic. And here's what I'll tell you, that I'm using a baseline of about 400,000 pure, and hear me clearly. And I'm not talking to you, I'm talking to owner operators. Hear me clearly in this. That is a pure spot market load. There
Perfect.
are contract loads, there are intermodal loads,
Yeah.
there are all kinds of other freight. That's
We
just
only
inside.
care.
I'm going from a pure spot market standpoint because load boards have become a real catch-all for all kinds of freight. And, but the pure spot market is around 100 million loads a year-ish in there. Now, look, we get more than that. We get a lot more than that, but you want to look at what really applies just to the owner-operator, because it's all becoming one marketplace. So I've done that baseline. So when I tell you that we're 15% above the baseline, 14.8 to be exact, I'm basing it off that what is that 5-year average that I knew was a completely conservative way to look at these numbers. Now, these aren't the total market numbers that we get. I'm just saying that I boiled it down to as basic as it could get, because I want to go off those numbers and not off of an increased expanded market number and all that, because most owner operators don't play in that arena. I want to get a basic number. So I've been trending, and as I now learned this from Noel, you want to start from a base point. You always want to go out from that base point to understand your ups and downs in a market. And so there's no perfect information inside of freight. This is just really, really good and accurate information when you're looking at it. So I've already got that. So, and I can show you, and I'll send it to you. I'll send you my doc every week, so you can. It's right under the NDI, and it says load posting volumes.
Yeah,
it gives you the exact expression right there.
Send that to me, and I want to start tracking that. So you're already doing the work for me, and I guess Noel must have taught me well also, because that's why I wanted to establish a baseline, because I think we're going to see a change. So let's get a good baseline. We all understand it. So just doing some quick math in my head. So today, are we around 460,000 loads?
Man, good job. Yeah, 464.
Okay.
And I measure on a specific day. I typically always measure on
the
Tuesday.
0.2. I only calculated the 14%,
you want to calculate, by the way,
14.2. Yeah.
Right. Right. The market goes up and down every day of the week. It's dynamic. I take the high points in the market and say, okay, well, here was the high point, because pressure goes up and down depending on the day. Like, for instance, if you haul a piece of freight on Friday, the likeliness of you getting a better rate on a Friday is much better than a Tuesday.
Yeah.
Because most people are going home on Fridays. Some are going home on Fridays, and so there's less trucks in a marketplace, so you can get a better rate. Now, it's going to cost you your time, because you got to pick it up on a Friday, and you're going to have to move it so far on a Friday or maybe a Saturday, and so you got to sacrifice your time. And truckers are awesome at that. So, but I always take a 1 day pinpoint, and this is what I trend against, because then you can create repeatability on it from your data set every single time.
So, we have data everywhere, but I'm wondering if this number that I'm thinking about actually exists. You do follow the outbound tender reject index. I want to think this through, if this even makes sense. And then you are only picking spot market loads out of the truck stop data. Can we correlate those two? Like, is there?
Now say that again.
So the outbound tender reject tells us that freight,
yes.
In the big picture, the easy way to understand this without even understanding why, it's really telling us freight is moving into the spot market, right?
Correct. It's correct. Well, it's being rejected. Yes, correct. Right. Anything above 5% tends to move. A percentage of it moves over to the spot market, because it comes through. What happens is the shipper will say, "Fine, Mr. Carrier, if you're not going to call it for this rate, I'm going to go find somebody else." Right now, it's a loose capacity market, so I'm going to go find somebody else, and oftentimes they do. A lot of times they don't, but sometimes they do, and so that will push that freight out into the broker world, right?
So it would seem like we would create a new index that kind of checks to see if this is working the way we expect it to work. We could compare the outbound tender reject each week. And I know there's a lag, but once you start tracking this number, then you'll start to see that pattern. It would be an index of, here's the outbound tender reject this week. Here are the load postings this week. And is it correlating the way we expect it to?
And it does. It does correlate that way. It really does. So in last, rates and load postings, because load postings, rates lag load postings, and so if you look at, I'll give you a for instance. We're in week one. Van rates in week one of last year were $2.13. Week one of this year, van is $2.20. So 7 cents. In the very, very competitive van marketplace, that's a lot. So, so what you do is, when I say to you that the outbound tender reject index has been above 5% for the last 4 months, you're seeing it reflected in the rates that you're seeing in the marketplace. Like, for instance, flatbed is almost even year over year. Refrigerated is up 7 cents over week one of last year. And I'm just going year over year. But I'll also tell you this, that for 25 straight weeks, and this is inflation adjusted, for 25 straight weeks, the rates in the spot market have been above 2020. This is in 2024, have been above 2023. So for 26 straight weeks, the rates were above the previous year. And FreightWaves even indicated this on their overall data they had. They indicated that spot rates year over year were up 16%. So spot rates in 2024 holistically were above, and I think they're probably talking drive-in spot rates because they usually go off the drive-in model. We're up 16% above the 2023 rates. Well, that's good for owner-operators because that's all owner-operator freight that's being moved. So you'll see in my prediction, and when the numbers I look at, and Noel feels the same way, we'll see that continued gain in the spot market for 2025. And this will be another. I don't want to call it too much of a correction year. It'll just be a normal market growth year because it's not correcting off of anything now because it corrected all. In 2025, we got the full correction done. So you'll see that in 2025 from a rate standpoint, they're beginning to continue to escalate because you can only underpay your capacity or your transportation providers for so long, and every shipper knows that.
So, Brent, I've got an idea. Might be a big idea.
I'm ready.
Might be a dumb idea because I just thought about it on the fly while we're talking about all these numbers. There's lots of places you can go where people review rates and even get down to specifics like, here's a hot lane. And for myself, I don't find a lot of value in some of that. Well, the hot lane isn't anywhere near where I run, and we waste a lot of time. I think it's a waste of time. Plus, numbers are hard over the air. Our audience is driving, so I've often thought, how could we really deliver? I like to be efficient in everything I do. Let's simplify things. Let's cut to the chase. Let's not get in the weeds on all this stuff if it's not helping us. And I don't think a lot of that stuff does. So in my mind, I was just putting together this, we'll call it an index because I think that's what it's going to be. And I think you have access to all this data, and I think you and I are smart enough, we could figure out the calculation on this. And it would be like the first thing we report every Monday. So here's what I'm thinking. So if I'm following a path of how all of this happens, and I'm thinking we can come up with a really good way of just coming on the air and saying, here's what's happening, and we'll give it a cool name. Right. So first we look at the outbound tender reject index. Then we look at load postings. Then we look at rates. So the three of those, because we know that's how it's going to happen. If the outbound tender reject goes up, load postings should go up and rates should go up, but there's a lag there. So let's correlate it and try to bring it back to a number each week. And then I don't want to get too complicated, but I think maybe we could even put a fuel price. Keep it simple, right? Well, let's think about, could we put a fuel price into the calculation just so when we get those wild swings in fuel price, it doesn't confuse us on our other number? You know what I mean? Yeah. Whenever I'm talking about rates, fuel is all automatically included in it. Got it. Okay, so I can scratch that part. I'm going to build that in. Whenever I'm talking to like Wall Street people,
they always ask me, is fuel in that?
Yeah.
Fuel's always in it. So
Good.
what's interesting about I want to commend you on something, because Noel and I were talking about this, and he said, look, the rates that you get from like the spot market insights and, you know, what used to be called the trans forecast at Truck Stop, those are all great to look at just from a basis standpoint. He goes, but look, every individual rate in every individual lane is different. And you just said that.
Right.
You just said, look, they're great to look at, but look, you just said, I don't really get much value out of that. And it's true. You really don't, because it's not specific to that lane. And,
you know,
and as we talked about, every lane has its own.
That number?
Yeah, go ahead.
You know who needs that number or that data? An analyst does.
Some
data the analyst, some data geek at JB Hunt, because they're putting out proposals, and they have to stay on top of all these lanes, and I get it. But for our market, that's all you and I care about. For our market, I don't find any real value in that. Well, here's the hot lane, and this lane's going down, and this lane's you're just in the weeds for no good reason. But if we can just come on and say, look, here's the big picture. Now, you take the big picture and you go use the tools at truckstop.com to find out what's going on in your lane, instead of us wasting a bunch of airtime talking about things that won't matter to 99% of the listeners. So I think if we come up with an index calculation on this, outbound tender to load posting to rates, that might be pretty powerful.
Yeah, certainly could. And that's a great way to look at it. The reason that these numbers,
thoughts on
the reason go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was just going to say maybe you could ask Noel about his thoughts and how we would calculate something like that. And if it Go ahead.
That's the first place I'm going. That's the first place I'm going, is to talk to Noel about and he'll go, yeah, well, this is exactly how you need to do it. So the reason that these apply to, you talked about JB Hunt or Schneider or some of the bigger players, even medium players, the reason it applies to them is that they haul the freight in the power lanes.
Exactly. Right.
All of them. And so some of them go, yeah, that's not my lane, so I don't really want anything to do with it. But that's my lane, and I want everything to do with that. So it's one of those things where it's really important if you're hauling 500 or something in that lane. It's not really important if you're hauling one, because yours is going to be a single negotiation, a single transactional negotiation with probably a third party entity.
Yeah.
And so it'll all be dependent on the pressure at that point in the lane.
Well, you just made a good point. I was just thinking that if we pick a lane, any lane, it's going to apply to about 1% of the people that listen. But you just brought up another point.
Right.
It's not even good data for them, because even if you're in that lane, you have to look at what's happening if I pick up the phone today to get a load on that.
Right. Absolutely.
So we're not going to do that kind of stuff. We don't really do it much, but we have in the past. And I every time I do, I think, I just don't see a whole lot of value in this. But I think we could create a number and an index that is designed for this audience, and it makes sense.
Right. Yeah, for sure you could. Yeah, there's no doubt.
All right. One more topic, because I know your time is getting short here. And I always want to be sensitive when I bring this up, but fortunately or unfortunately, we'll call it unfortunately, our industry benefits from natural disasters. As much as I hate that's... It just does. Yeah. I'm looking at this with... I don't even know the numbers because I haven't been watching much news lately. I try to catch some stuff. 180,000 evacuated. Is that still the right number?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I think I was reading this morning. I think it's more than that.
I figured it was, because I saw there was a whole bunch of new fires. And I'm probably way off on the number of structures that have been destroyed, but it's a lot. And you start to think about all of the economic activity and shipping, your whole house burns down and you're displaced. You got to go buy a lot of stuff. Right. And I don't mean just to rebuild yet. you got to go buy a lot of stuff just to live day to day. There's a lot of movement of freight that's going to have to happen. Once we start rebuilding, then that's going to shoot up, because I can't even imagine how they're going to do this or how long it's going to take. I've only been through one much smaller event than this. When I was in Orlando, we got hit one summer with 3 hurricanes, all hurricane strength came through Orlando. And the first one was the worst. I lost a bunch of shingles, and in Florida, they have those pool enclosures, the screen enclosures, and some of them are monstrous.
Yeah.
2 stories high, and the whole backside of the house is this giant screen enclosure. And mine got torn off of the house. And so, but what I remember was we had to wait a long time just for an insurance adjuster to come out. Then we had to wait a long time to find somebody who could do the roof, and it took us even longer to find somebody to do the screen enclosure, and that was a pretty small event. So I can't imagine what this process is going to be like, but I have to believe this is going to have an impact on volume and rates.
Well, I think there's a couple things here. Economically, it will be good for trucking because a lot of freight will be moved, no doubt. Now, we all know the challenges of moving anything in California.
Oh, yeah, good point.
The regulations aren't going to stop, so that's an issue above itself. So, but from the standpoint of trucking in California, certainly it'll be a boom for not a boom. It'll be an increase for a while. We actually, Noel and I look at these things. We look at hurricanes, we look at tornadoes, we look at floods, we look at fires, and you have to, because trucking adjusts to every one of them. Trucking is the safety valve that everybody depends on to get what they need, and so this is why the construction in North Carolina is going so slow. It's hard to get to that area of the country.
Oh, that's a good point.
It's just hard.
Right.
And so, so you've got California, and then, that's one thing. Number 2, California has a tremendous amount of rules and regulations and permitting and all sorts of things that are going to create challenges. And I don't know if they'll suspend those for a while. They may, trying to get people back, because obviously this is the largest fire and natural disaster definitely in California history. I don't know if it's American history. Maybe the Chicago fire was bigger. I don't know, but amazing. But here's the thing. And so it goes back to our book on economics in one simple lesson. That money comes to a lot of that rebuilding money will come from the government. Some of it will come from private enterprise. But remember, that's being spent on something that it wasn't intended to be spent on. So that means it can't get invested into something else.
That's a good point too.
So where the rebuilding, the rebuilding thing will be an increase for trucking, and that's good for truckers. But the actual economy of California is going to be damaged tremendously, because so many people are going to say, "Do I even rebuild here? Do I just go somewhere else?"
Right.
Because it's going to be very interesting to see how that happens. Now, I saw where Governor Newsom invited Donald Trump to come out, or President-elect Trump to come out and do some things. And, they don't get along famously well. They do not get along. So,
yeah.
And so we'll see where it goes. We'll see where it goes with that. But, the people in California are wonderful U.S. citizens, and we love them just like any other citizen. And we may not like the politics in California, but we love the people of California. And so we got to figure out a way to help our fellow man, fellow citizen. Just like you and I talked about last week about how we serving them. There's a good report in FreightWaves about 2 LA-based logistics and transportation companies that help. I think one of them was called Talon, and one of them was called something else. I actually know Talon, but there's a great group called the American Logistics Aid Network, Kevin, that gathers all of the forces in supply chain and transportation and helps where there's a crisis. And certainly Alan's going to be involved. Is going to be involved in California. So, and I'm on the board of Alan, and so I love what they do where supply chain and transportation can help.
Can we get them on the show?
Oh, absolutely. Kathy Fulton would love to come on. She's an incredible person. Absolutely. We can do it next Monday. You want to?
I was going to say, let's see if we can make that happen next Monday. I'd love to have that.
Absolutely. Yep. Then I'd love to. I just forwarded. Go ahead.
Yeah. One more. We'll end on the political note here.
Okay.
Just comparing the two administrations, and I'm going to put California out of the picture right now because I think the federal government's going to have to step in and make this all happen. But
Right.
if you look at the two administrations, I'm not even going to say one's good and one's bad. They just are what they are for right now. One of the current administration for one more week have just fact alone. It's not even opinion. Far more regulation, blue tape. It seems like the climate agenda always comes before business, no matter what. Here's how ridiculous this is. Freightliner is based here in Portland, Oregon, right?
Right.
Do you know you can't order an internal combustion engine truck in Oregon now? Freightliner won't fill an order.
Really?
Because there's already a quota. It's not that they're outlawed in Oregon, but there's a quota. Every manufacturer has to sell a certain percentage of electric trucks. Well, wait a minute. They don't exist yet. But Freightliner has said because of that, we're just not taking orders for internal combustion trucks in Oregon.
Right.
So that's what I'm talking about with this. I don't care if you believe in climate change and the fact that we could talk about that for hours, but set all that aside. How do you write a regulation that is so goofy you have to sell a certain number of trucks? Those trucks don't even exist. And this isn't just trucks.
Right.
It's every vehicle from Class 8 trucks and something like my Coach, big RVs, all the way down to Class 2. There are no electric RVs in the 45-foot coach range that I'm aware of that are even thought of yet. So what I mean by this, everything is about climate change and regulation. That's what we have to deal with this administration. The next administration coming in is about 180 degrees away from that. It's like, look, we got to slash regulations and let business flourish again. So I would just say, no matter what your politics are in California, you should be thankful. And I am. I'm thankful that we have a shot at using some common sense here for a lot of people are suffering and saying, look, whether you believe those regulations ever make any sense, they don't make any sense when people are suffering, and we need to just get down to business. And I think that is just a completely different mindset.
Right. Well, I agree. Well, look at the things that administrations or government, whether it be city, state, or federal, that what they'll suspend if there's a dramatic thing that happens. Think about the bridge in Baltimore that got hit.
Right.
They've suspended to get it rebuilt. They've suspended things. When they had the earthquake and the two bridges broke in San Francisco, it stopped the World Series, right? And so they suspended a lot of this to get them rebuilt back. And so same thing. So I would hope that they would default to what's best for the human, what's best for the citizen in this thing, because a lot of the problem, as you and I talked about previously, a lot of the problem out in LA was because they were defaulting not to what was best for the citizen.
Correct.
It was what was best for, I believe they were limiting the water because of some potentially endangered fish.
I don't even think it's endangered. It's a smelt. Aren't there like, I don't know if there's certain, maybe I'm wrong about this. I used to do some kind of offshore deep sea fishing when I lived in Florida. I'd take the kids and we'd go, a couple times a year, and we'd just hire a boat. And isn't that the kind of stuff we would, throw nets out and collect for bait fish? I think that's what
I do believe. That's what I do believe you did. Right?
And they're like everywhere. I'm probably technically wrong somewhere here, but even if it is endangered, come on. Humans versus an endangered species isn't even close, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. Here's a good example of this that we see a lot in trucking. Many, many times, even not major emergencies. If we have a really cold snap somewhere, they suspend hours of service for drivers sometimes in those situations. Propane delivery, and they'll be real
for sure.
specific about it.
Sure they do.
Fuel oil and propane, we're going to suspend the hours of service during this cold snap.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, absolutely. They do that in every area. Anywhere there's a natural disaster, they typically suspend a regulation, typically it's hours of service.
Right.
So, yeah, absolutely. So let's hope that common sense continues to prevail.
Well, next Monday should be a fun show for a lot of reasons.
Yeah, I'm gonna get Kathy. I'm gonna text her right now, and I'm actually I'm gonna send you her information as well. But Kathy Fulton, the American Logistics Aid Network, for every owner operator out there. Here's the thing that I think would be interesting. It's something I've kind of talked about quite a bit in my 12 years of being a truck stop. It'd be great. How do we develop somewhat of like a system between all the players in the marketplace, whether it be a large, medium, or small fleet, or an owner operator, and then brokerage companies, where we donate our services in crisis time? But now I know the owner operator can't donate a drive. They can't donate the haul of freight, but a broker could, or a larger fleet, a more profitable company could, and the owner operator could sign up to haul it.
Well, here's
so maybe there's go ahead.
I believe, and especially with our tribe, one of the reasons I teach, and you're a part of this now in this show and a lot of other things I do, but one of the reasons I teach what I do, being so efficient, being profitable enough that you can do this even as an owner operator. That's what giving back means. It doesn't mean you do it when it's only convenient. Yeah, it should be a little bit of a stretch. And if you're profitable enough, then so here's one way, even if you're not profitable enough to just say, look, I'm going to make that move at no cost. I'd love to see some owner operators do that. And I know plenty that listen to this show that could. But what about this? I know my cost. I'll haul it at cost. Oh, yeah.
Well, there you go. Maybe so.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a great way to look at it. Haul at cost, and then, I love it.
I would love to be a part of something like that. And there's one other thing I've always wanted to and I know there's some of it going on, but not enough. The idea of all of the food waste in this country. And absolutely. If there was a better way to stop throwing that, and I know a lot of it is just regulation, which is insane. But when regulations aren't in the way, who better to organize a way to get all of the food that's going to go to the dump to, food banks everywhere in the country? I'd love to be a part of
the
something like that.
Yeah, I'd love to work. I think Kathy has some strategy on that as well, because I've worked with the different food bank organizations, and I even went up and met with the largest one that's in Chicago, and said, "Hey, how do we do this?" And they said, they move a lot. They use a lot of the standard transportation haulers to move the food that they've got, but there's still more opportunity to have that be able to more food to get moved at a lower cost. So anyway, I'd love let's keep talking about this.
Perfect. All right, Brent, I'm going to let you get on with your day, and I'm going to open up the phone lines and get on with my show, and I'm going to look forward to next Monday. Should be a great show.
You got it. We'll have Kathy on. Thanks, brother.
All right. Talk to you soon. All right.
You got it. Bye-bye.
Phone lines are open. It's time to get to some calls and find out what is on your mind. The rest of the show is a free-for-all. You can talk about anything you want. I might talk about anything I want. Or if the phone calls run out, I'll probably just quit, because my list of to-dos just keeps getting bigger and bigger. Let's get started in New York. Brian, good morning.
Good morning, Kevin. I wanted to comment on Friday, your new profit gauges blockchain thing.
What do you think?
It sounds too good to be true, but you hit all the boxes.
I'm still in that phase, believe it or not. We're signing documents, and there's several pieces to this that I'm really excited about, but we are... It's almost taken over my day. So when I run out of calls most days now, I'm not even going to ask for new calls. I'm just going to end the show because I want to go work on this stuff. There's a lot to get done, but I'm still in that phase where I'm not convinced yet, but it's hard to argue against because I'm seeing this stuff happening already. And a lot of what I'm talking about is not still in development. A lot of the pieces I'm talking about are done. I mean, they're already happening in some ways. Some of the pieces, they're still putting together partners and other companies, but I don't see any reason why those things aren't going to happen. But I still wake up every morning and go, are you sure about this? Is this real or am I getting sucked down the rabbit hole here? But everything I can find says, no, this is happening, and we're going to be right on the front end of this thing.
I never imagined I might have a bank account at the Fokker Bank,
Hey, we should put that on our card. That should be the name of our card. The Fokker card.
There you go.
And then when you when you hand it to somebody, you could go, here, fuck you.
Oh boy. Well, I'll tell you this: you would make me a very happier customer, if you accomplish one of the simplest things you mentioned. Because I'm paying FreshBooks $20 a month just to generate and track invoices. So, if invoicing comes to profit gauges, that would be amazing. But
I believe that even without this, I'm not positive about this because I haven't been a big part of the details on this project. Even without this piece, I think we were about to have invoicing through Mystic, and we're attaching the two. So I think that's happening either way.
Oh, cool. That reminds me of another thing. We've talked about payroll, or you've talked about payroll in the past. I'm currently transitioning from paying someone else to do my payroll in QuickBooks to doing it myself with a product called Gusto. And from what I can see so far, it's really impressive. I wish I would have started with that because I'm sure starting with them would have been easier than transitioning my existing accounts. The way they automate all the account setup. All my deductions.
So is this a mobile app?
Perfect.
Is it called Gusto Wallet?
They might have a mobile, but it's, as far as I know, they probably do. But I've been doing it all on the web desktop.
Yeah, as soon as I type, I wanted to look to see what it was, and as soon as I, Gusto.com, payroll benefits, HR, yeah, that sounds like it.
If you're just a single owner operator paying yourself, it's going to cost you $46 a month, and
nice.
You can put payroll on autopilot that it automatically runs, and it makes sure you actually have money before it runs it. So,
yeah, that's a good thing.
Pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but anyway, you had mentioned, it's funny, you guys were talking about the whole pay down debt and save cash thing. I might have touched on this before, but February 8th is my daughter's 10th birthday, and it is also the 10th anniversary of me being a truck owner.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, hard to believe, right?
Congratulations.
Thanks. So I'm still here. My bottom line number, you should have my numbers, looks pretty all right, although my expenses are stupid as usual, and I can walk you through some of that on the maintenance.
I'm looking at it right now.
Oh, on the pay down debt save.
Boy, you really.
So when you first started saying pay down, when you first started saying pay down debt and save cash, I was still buying and financing equipment, and
okay.
It wasn't that I wasn't listening to you, and it was a good move, but I paid all that equipment off, and then I did have my debt paid down, and I did have lots of cash saved up, and now all of that's gone after a couple engines, and
Yeah. Well, see, let's
and
stop
now I have
right there.
3 car payments.
Let's stop right there. The engines and that kind of stuff. A lot of
Sure.
times it's not in our plan. We don't really have that in the mix.
Sure.
That was the whole point. Aren't you glad you did what you did? So you were able to get through that.
Oh,
Even
absolutely.
if you do have to go borrow some money to get through an emergency, if you're in too bad a financial shape, you're not going to be able to borrow the money.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I, I'm paying my bills, but I'm not where I want to be. I got 3.
Did you
Go ahead.
listen to last Thursday's show with Ted Johnson?
I did not listen to that one yet.
You should go back and listen. So Ted Johnson came to the CMC back in 2014, 2015 when he was 19 years old and bought a truck. And he's got a great story. You'll hear it all. It was the entire hour. But he was at the point last year where he was operating at a negative. And he had to take money out of his own personal accounts just to make payroll. And you can't afford to do that unless you are financially healthy going into that problem. And that's why companies go out of business. In reality, all business failures come down to one thing. You run out of money. One way or another, you just ran out of money.
Yep.
And so that's why the planning, and when I talk about that, pay down debt, save cash. Pay down debt lowers your cost. So that's a savings, and saving the cash gets you prepared for this. And even if you look at it and you go, well, I'm never going to save enough cash to get me through a whole year. Well, that's not the point. The more cash you have, the longer you can survive. And if you've got some cash in the bank and things are going bad, you can borrow some money if you have to. For Ted, you'll hear the story. It got to the point where he actually had to go to his employees and ask them to take a pay cut. And they did, which tells me something about how he runs his company and how he treats his people. So, when times are good, and we remember those $4 a mile freight days just a couple years ago, everybody with a truck is bragging about everything, right? I told that broker to kick rocks. I just laughed at him and hung up. And I don't care about fuel prices. I just get out and hammer down. That's fine, except those are the people that are gone now. And no matter how tough things get, if you prepared well enough, you make it through it.
Right. Yep. On the maintenance there, you could take out $33,000 for a new engine, and $5,500 is maintenance on the spare truck I bought to run while I was having the engine done. So, which still leaves you with quite a maintenance bill on my main truck, but
yeah,
which has been an ongoing trend.
But here's the crazy thing: with all of that going on, your numbers, profit-wise, which is what we really care about, are still significantly above average.
Sure. Yeah.
I mean, that's your revenue. What time frame? I forgot to look at what time frame we're. Oh, this is all of 2024. I mean, this is really accurate data here. All miles. Where do you get your freight from?
Can't tell you.
Not specific. Well, you'd have to kill me afterwards, but just in general, is it direct freight, broker freight?
So if on the revenue side, about 50% last year came from one broker through one shipper.
Wow.
And that broker does not have a low board subscription.
Perfect. No, here's what I love about that. Yeah, Brian, this is why I love when people call with profit gauges numbers and people who run business as well, because the results of the lessons are all there. You don't get freight like that with one broker, one shipper, and the broker doesn't even post unload boards. You don't get that without doing two things, without making the effort to find and build the relationship, and then an even more important part, servicing that customer so well you don't lose that freight.
Yeah. Yeah, and I would definitely say that there was some luck involved in finding that broker as well. But
well, I have a thing
say,
about luck. The harder you work and the smarter you work, the luckier you get.
Absolutely, and I'll take credit for that because I know a lot of people that had the same opportunity to work with that broker, and if I tried to cover a load for him, it was, I was begging somebody to take it, and it's like couldn't get anybody on board.
So just so people understand what we're talking about, this calculation is all miles. This isn't taking, your loaded miles and pay. This is all miles, deadhead, running back and forth to the shop, whatever else you use your truck for. During 2024, on all miles, you did $2.59 a mile. That's an incredible number.
And probably about half of those miles were empty, and this is with a dry van bumping docks.
So you had to wake up every morning and go, what freight recession is everybody talking about? Right? You didn't suffer any kind of a freight recession.
Yeah. Well, I yes and no, but trying to deal with all the other brokers with, no recent inspections and no ELD and all of that. And then, and our volume suffered with the economy too, because we get the leftovers.
Here's what I would say. That's all relative. So what you're telling us is you were doing better. And this was kind of a recession for you, but I know about 99% of the single owner-operator truck world would kill to have these numbers in 2024.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, even after having all that with engines and buying another truck to operate that, and we know what you still got very, very close to $1 a mile profit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good stuff.
Yeah. And I guess my only cautionary tale on that is watch what you spend at home because you can still feel broke after making $1 a mile all year.
Yeah. That is a good lesson. And I've been there myself. Your finances are all on an upward trajectory. You think you've got this all figured out and things are going great. And, I like stuff or even just investments, picking up properties that aren't paying me a penny. They're just costing me money, which is what all my properties are right now. You got to be careful with that kind of stuff. Things change and, not that I was worried, but in the last 6 months, for the most part, almost all discretionary spending has stopped in the business and personal wise. So I make sure I don't get near that danger zone. And I don't like that. I mean, I have all kinds of plans. There's things I want to do on the property, and I just had to say, it's just not a good time to do that.
Right. Yeah.
All right. Good stuff.
Yeah, and I just found out this morning that our shipper got a new CEO with a logistics background, and his number one priority is reducing shipping costs. So
you just brought up
that was great news.
Another good lesson. This is another good lesson to remind people of. I used to say I don't like dealing with big companies because this happens all the time. The people that you've built a relationship with get transferred, they leave the company, and it's almost like starting all over again. Or this is worst case scenario, it's not even the people that you're dealing with, it's the CEO. and he's going to shake up everything because that's what CEOs do. There's a way to minimize this risk, but there's no way to avoid this risk. And when you're small, it's hard to minimize, because the way you minimize is you don't put all your eggs in one basket. You know, everything we need to know about business and life, I swear we learned in kindergarten. You don't put all your eggs in one basket. You got to diversify as much as you can. Well, I used to think one of the ways to avoid this was deal with really small companies. Except, you know what the trend has been in the last couple of years? And we've had to deal with it many, many times, way more than I ever thought we would have. And it's been really disruptive. Small companies, the trend is they get bought by big companies. When they're successful, and those are the kind of people we like to deal with, when they're really successful, they get bought. I can't tell you how many of our vendors have been bought, and everything changes.
Absolutely. The relationship between this shipper and this broker started when they were a much smaller company before they got bought.
Sometimes you can make it through that, and other times you're just done.
Yeah.
Well, that happened with us.
Yeah, it's always a possibility.
With our seafood vendor. I met the guy I met the owner personally at a conference. It was a personal relationship. We loved the products. We loved the company because they were so outstanding. And they got bought. And on day one, they dropped us as a vendor. No discussion, no explanation, no nothing. It's just, we won't sell wholesale to you anymore.
Wow.
Yeah, that's pretty disruptive.
Yeah. Yeah, we've had a lot of bombs like this dropped on us from them before, so hopefully we dodge this one too, but we'll see.
All right. Well, good stuff, and I am going to move on. I think I've got some calls, and I'm trying to do something while I talk. I will talk to you again soon. Thanks for that.
Yep. See you, Kevin.
All right. Take care. Let's go to Minnesota. Matt, good morning.
Morning.
What's on your mind today?
I was called the other week. I heard you say you're not recommending the S13 International.
Correct.
And I was wondering what the reasons were.
It's not so much the engine architecture itself. The engine architecture shows a lot of promise because it's similar to the Volvo design that we talk about. It should be able to be downsped really successfully. From what I'm gathering from some pretty reliable sources, the entire platform, truck, because everything's proprietary now. So it's kind of like all the other trucks. It's international from front to back. The entire platform is not performing well at all. Like a lot of problems, a lot of major vibrations that nobody seems to be able to explain, and just some signs that just don't look good.
Okay.
Hold on one second.
Okay.
Hold on. All right. So, yeah, as much as I am really excited about having another option, and for a couple of years, I was an international guy because I had a great international dealer. I had a sales guy that found me any truck I wanted. I liked their shop. So it's not that I'm anti-international, but they have just been a mess for a long, long time. I thought this was going to turn them around, and it might. You don't turn an aircraft carrier around in a quarter mile. It's going to take them a while, but it's too much of a risk. Let the fleets, international, if they want to make this work, they're going to go out, they're going to offer, great deals, screaming deals to the big fleets. Let them work out all the problems. And I hope they do. And I hope this becomes a good platform. But in my opinion, it's not worth the risk for a small carrier.
Okay. All right. Well, that's all I needed. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks for the call. All right. We've got some calls. Phone lines are open. I'll stay as long as the calls keep coming in. Let's go to, we're going to stay right there in Minnesota. Jonathan, what's on your mind?
Hey, Kevin. Hello?
Yeah, what's on your mind today?
Yeah, I was listening to the Thursday episode with Ted Johnson. It kind of inspired me to call into the show today.
Oh, good. Wasn't that a great show? I just love his story.
Yeah, it's a great story. It kind of reminds me of myself a little bit. I'm a 20-year-old truck driver here in northern Minnesota, and I kind of want to go to the CMC, but I don't know, when is it?
So the way we do the CMC now, it used to be a 5-day live event. And I would love to be able to do a longer live event, but the cost of putting on live events now has become just prohibitive. I don't know how anybody, well, most companies don't make money. And even to do the day and a half that we're doing live, we have to have sponsors. I mean, we can't do it without the sponsors anymore. So we've created a hybrid program, which when we did 5 days, and they were 5 long days. I mean, I spent about 35 hours on stage myself, and we had probably up to 20 speakers at our last event. We can't come near touching on all the topics and information I want to cover. So what we do now is we start with a day and a half live, and you don't have to be there, but I will tell you this. We tried last year. We paid an incredible amount of money to have a company come in and video the whole thing. And then when we figured out how much it was going to take us to edit all the video and get it posted, we realized that's not going to work either. So what I will end up doing this year is we'll have the live event. Then we move into an online virtual event for an entire year. So this year at Matt's, which let me grab the dates for that pretty quick because I don't know what it is. And be patient while I try to talk and type at the same time.
All good.
So Matt's this year, the Mid-America Truck Show in Louisville is March 27th through the 29th. And that's Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. So on March 26th, Wednesday, in Louisville at the Mid-America Truck Show in the same building, we will do a full day of CMC live on Wednesday. Then on Thursday morning, we do a half day up till about noon or 1 o'clock. And then you're right there at the show. So if you want to hang out and see the Mid-America Truck Show, which you've never seen it, you should. So we've made it as convenient as we can possibly make it. We've combined with the largest truck show in the world, or North America. And we are an official partner with Matt's now. In fact, you can register right through Matt's. In fact, that is how you register for the first day and a half. Then we go into a year-long virtual webinar series where I do at least 2-hour every other week. And this year, what I'll do is I'll take the day and a half live, and we'll start the virtual event with that same material. So if anybody misses that first day and a half live, you're going to get the same material to kick off the virtual event. And right now, we're in the middle, well, we passed the middle point. We're coming up on the end of last year's program. And I have learned a lot. I'm so excited. I'm designing the whole new program for next year. And this was a big learning year for me. I've never really done anything like this virtually or combined it with live and virtual. So I'm excited. So your options are you can come to the live event at Louisville in March, and then you'll be in the program for another year after that. Or if you can't make Louisville, you can just sign up for the virtual year-long program. And when we do the virtual program, those are always recorded, and you have access to go back and watch any of them forever.
Okay. And you don't always have to be at the live. You can go back. Say I miss a week, I can still go back to it, right?
You don't have to be at any of them. And I kind of follow, I check the stats on who's attending and that kind of thing so I can keep track of it. We have people that were almost through this program that have never been to one of the virtual events while it was happening. They just watch it when they have time.
Okay. Sweet. So I definitely have plenty of time to. I thought it was in February, not March. So I have plenty of time to sign up for that.
It's really the end of March, yeah. So you've got, now, I will say this. We are, and this is pretty typical. We know how this event stuff works. We've been doing it a long time. We have 250 seats, and I'm not sure if we can expand that even if we want to. We're exploring that now. If it fills up, it fills up. Typically, though,
Yep.
it's that last month where we get the biggest sign up. So what I'll do is I'll just keep people informed. So if we start to get close to a deadline, I'll make sure everybody knows. We're nowhere near that 250 yet. And that's pretty common. We hardly ever get signups this early.
Sweet. Yeah. I'm not really planning on buying a truck ASAP. It's within the next 2 to 4 years, so I kind of want to go to a couple of CMCs to gain my knowledge before I fully commit to myself to that.
And here's the other thing we're working on right now. Because this is virtual and not live, when we do a live event, we really never discounted anything. Not even like husband and wives coming together. And the reason we couldn't is because our margins are so small, and those costs on a live event are outrageous. Now, when we do virtual events, we have cost, and if we add more people, our costs go up, but it's much, much smaller. So one of the things I really want to do, and we're working on these numbers right now, anybody who is currently in the program this year, I want to be able to give them a significant discount to stay in the program. And I think we can do that with it being virtual. And we'll continue to do that moving forward. So you said you'd like to come to a couple CMCs, which is awesome. I want to make it really easy for people who support us and come to that first event and pay full price. I want to make it really easy for them to stay in the program.
Yeah, of course.
So we're working on that pricing. So I'd love to see you there.
Yeah, I'd love to go.
Good. Any questions today I can help you with?
Yeah, another thing, I race dirt track up here in northern Minnesota, and I'm wondering if you have any tips or tricks on to gain more marketing partners.
Ooh. Are you using social media at all?
Yeah, Facebook.
And tell me what you do on Facebook.
We just post results and support other businesses that support me.
Okay, so here's what I would do. This is marketing today. In fact, I would forget almost everything else unless you've got something that's really working for you. I would get very active on social media, and not just Facebook, TikTok, if it continues to exist. TikTok, we might be losing it here in the U.S. Instagram, X is becoming a good platform. If you want to get the word out there, just start an account everywhere. And then get creative and be consistent. Like pick a theme and stay consistent with it. I don't know. Is anybody doing this? This is the first thing that comes to mind for me. Is anybody live streaming from a race itself with like a GoPro?
Not really a GoPro, but most people have like a person that videos the race and it's live streamed.
Why not use a GoPro on the vehicle itself?
Yeah, it sounds like a cool idea.
And start live streaming to your I know there's some technical issues, but I think they could probably be overcome. That would put you in a very, very small class of people, and you would probably get lots of attention. And that's what they want. Here's what marketing partners want. And I will also say for anybody out there in business right now, the number one asset you can own if you're a business and you want to grow and you want partners, the number one asset you can own is an audience. That's what everybody needs. Every marketing partner you're going to have wants to sell something. That's the whole point of all of this. And the way you sell today is not by buying $1 million ads on the Super Bowl. The way you market today is you use people who have audiences in their target markets. So your first priority should be to build that audience. Forget the marketers right now. Don't even waste any time on marketers unless something comes your way. And it happens, then let it happen. But your total focus right now should be on building an audience. And I know I just made it sound easy. It's not, because there's so much competition out there to try to build an audience today. I just did something today that absolutely shocked me. We don't do very well at what I just explained. We don't market well. We have a big audience, but something has gone haywire because we don't focus on this. I went and I asked Grok, my best friend now, the AI on X, I asked him to list the top trucking podcasts. I didn't even make the list. I was shocked by that. I would not have been surprised had I been at the top of the list. If nothing else, just by sheer volume alone. Almost nobody broadcasts as much as I do. Most podcasts are an hour a month. I do 3 hours a day. So just by sheer volume, I should come up high in search results like that. And I didn't even make the list. With all this stuff I got going on, my number one priority when I get off the show today is I have to start figuring out why that occurred, how it occurred. Doesn't even make sense to me. So building an audience isn't easy, but that is the only way you're going to get really good deals on this kind of stuff. Forget the marketers right now and go build your audience. And I think if you can figure out a way to live stream from your helmet or the vehicle during a race, that would be a big, big deal. Oh, Jonathan, did we lose you? I think we lost him. I still see him on the board. Jonathan, if you're listening, if not, you can catch this on the recording maybe later. Reach out to Fleet Air Filter, David Counts. That's how Fleet Air Filter came into existence. David Counts has been a big dirt track racer, and I believe his son's into it now. And they developed that filter for their dirt track racers. Then he made one for the truck he used to haul them around, and that's how that whole company got started. So I'm not hearing Jonathan. I'm hoping it's not on my end. All my signals look okay. Let's try Herschel and see if he can hear me and I can hear him. Herschel, can you hear me?
Hey,
good.
Kevin.
Good. I can hear you too.
Well, I would say you know how it is, but you don't. But when you are on hold to talk to you start thinking up more crap that you want to tell that you wasn't going to tell in the first place, but now you thought up some.
Well, you know what that tells me is I must be doing my job and getting people to think.
Well, the guy with the dirt car. I used to have a dirt car.
Oh.
Man, is that a blast.
It looks like so much fun. I know.
If he's still listening, pick a place that you want to get a sponsorship from, whether it's a restaurant, car parts place, towing company, somebody with a storefront that has people going in and out. Go into them, and you can ask them for sponsorship, and they may or may not do something, but if they don't, tell them, how about this? On a Saturday or whatever day you can, I want to bring my dirt car. I want to sit it in your front parking lot. I'm going to put hot dog stand out. I'm going to sell hot dogs as long as you're okay with that. And we'll create some traffic. And you create enough traffic for that business, they might say, man, this guy's got something going on.
That's a great
I pick
idea.
Up a sponsor.
That's a great idea. What do you think my idea of live streaming on the social sites to build your audience?
The only problem with that, you have to check with the racetrack that you're at. A lot of racetracks do not allow live streaming, and you can get in all kinds of trouble if you do it.
That's a good
you have
point.
To be careful.
Good point.
Yeah, like if the World of Outlaw sprint cars are there. Oh, man. You better not live stream when they're at the track. Not them on the track,
right.
Just at that event, period.
Yeah, I could see that. If that were the case, just because I know this really is this is marketing today, and this isn't going away, it's just getting bigger. If that were the case, but that was my goal to build that audience, I would specifically go look for events that they allowed me to live stream.
Right, exactly.
But that's a good point. I never even thought about that.
if this guy is a YouTube watcher, Kenny Wallace, you ever heard of Kenny Wallace?
NASCAR?
Yeah, Rusty Wallace's brother.
Oh, okay.
Kenny Wallace, he does a show on YouTube. I think it's kind of funny because he calls it Coffee with Kenny, and yours is Coffee with Kevin. I think it's kind of funny.
So again,
he is actually. Go ahead.
No, finish.
He is featuring local, standard, regular, everyday racers like this guy is. Whether he's a bomber, a modified, a late model, doesn't matter the class. And he's featuring them through the winter and the off season here. And he does an interview with them. And Kenny Wallace has a lot of followers, hundreds of thousands.
That's what it takes. That's where the money is now. It's in the audience.
Reach out to Kenny Wallace and tell him who you are, what you do. And if you can get on a conversation with Kenny, man, you talk about a lot of exposure right on the YouTube.
Well,
hundreds of thousands.
Yeah, and for Jonathan, if he's listening, that's the other thing you do when you go sign up for all these platforms. And I forgot to mention YouTube because they delete me all the time, and I don't like to. Well, I just forget about them. Once you get on those platforms, your first 5 minutes should be searching for every person and group you can find that is a part of what you do in this class dirt track racing, and start networking with them. That's how you build an audience even faster. Here's a question, because I know nothing about dirt track, but I'm assuming it's a lot like motocross, and I raced motocross for a lot of years. If I had to say, I would say when I raced motocross, 99% of my time was practicing and 1% was racing. Do you practice a lot in dirt track? I would think you have to.
No, not at all. You go to the racetrack, and they have what they call a hot lap session. And depending on the class of the car, it's 2 to 4 laps. And you go out and you do what you can do. You take the car back to the pits. You get it ready for heat races. That's it. Unless you know somebody that has a track, or you rent the track, which some tracks will do. You can rent the track, and a bunch of you get together and go practice. But typically, no. You show up, you do your hot lap session, that's it.
I'm glad I asked. That seems so bizarre to me, because motocross was the exact opposite. Starting from the time I was 6, when I got my first little, Honda Mini Trail 50, I lived on that thing. Now, I lived in a place where, we made trails out through the woods, and we had this old abandoned sand and gravel pit, and we made trails there. And I lived on that motorcycle, and racing was the actual race itself was, on Sunday, and some weeks it was just one heat, one race, and I'm done. So I just assumed that you would practice a lot, because what I was going to say then was just, stick a GoPro on your helmet and start filming all your practice stuff.
Well, and then you have guys like me that had a big enough yard. I found a disc that you would use for a garden.
Yeah.
I literally found it in the weeds in the back of the property when I bought it. So I hooked that dude up to my garden tractor, and I drove around and around and around, and I made a dirt track in my backyard. And there I was out there with my hobby stock, just blasting around in the backyard.
Well, that seems to me like if this is the norm. See, in motocross, you had to practice that much, even if you were just racing at the little dinky local track, because that's what everybody did. Everybody was on their motorcycle all the time. So in order to be even remotely competitive, you had to do that. It would seem to me like in dirt track, if you could figure out a way to practice, you would get a lot better than people who can't practice.
Yeah, a lot of tracks, my local track, Atomic Speedway, they do have a test and tune. It's always before the racing season starts. It's typically one day. So, you get that chance at the beginning of the year, but that's about it. It's a hot lap session, and line them up, drop the rag, and go racing.
That seems bizarre to me. No wonder why it's so wild.
Oh, it's a blast.
I know. That's just...
Oh, it's so much fun.
Yeah. Huh. Interesting. Well,
I didn't do worth a damn, but I was laughing the whole time.
Interesting.
So, Mr. Matt, the king of profit gauges,
Yeah.
he's like the top of the board all the time, and it's inspiring what that guy can do. I thought I would call you today because you talked to that other guy that I can't remember his name, and he was doing pretty good too.
Brian.
So I thought, well, let me tell Kevin to look at mine, and we'll show you where you can go when you go way down in the bottom.
Okay. We got to talk about this. Let me look at your numbers for a second. So if it gets a little quiet, you'll know why. Because I want to try to see if I can figure this out from your numbers. Because I'm telling you, if I didn't know you, Herschel, if somebody out of the blue called me with this and I open it up, I would say, you're either lying to me or you totally screwed up your accounting. Because what I'm seeing on your top line, the summary, almost, I'll use the word almost, never happens. So there's some weird exception in here, and I'm going to see if I can figure it out. Oh.
I'm not going to do a song and dance because I'll fall and break my ankle.
No, I already see a huge problem here. How do you only have, maybe this is the explanation. I just don't know why this would occur. How do you go an entire year with only 20,000 miles?
Well, that is because I lost 7 months with 3 eye surgeries, and I lost 4 to 5 weeks at least with truck problems.
Got it. And I remember all the eye surgeries and all the time off, and you and I were talking a lot then. So that's what I want to let people know, that but all I had to do was look at the top line of the business report from Profit Gauges, the very first line. You've heard me tell this story many times. When I sat down to design Profit Gauges and everything's always focused on the bottom line, I always said, well, if the bottom line's so damn important, why don't we put it at the top? Why do you make me go through all this other stuff? Let me see it at the top. So it's the only software program I've ever seen that does this. So when I look at this and I see that you lost $2.09 a mile, I immediately know there has to be an exception. There has to be something, either a huge mistake or something that doesn't occur very often. And this is, you have significantly high fixed cost. Your truck payment alone takes out $36,000 a year for the truck payment. And if you don't work...
That was in 24, not anymore.
Good. And when you have significantly high fixed cost, the way you have to overcome that is you have to run a lot of miles to overcome the fixed cost. You did the opposite. You weren't able to run the miles. That's why this report looks so crazy. But what I want to look at is, because you couldn't help this. This was an anomaly. No. It was out of your control. So what I want to look at instead is, well, when you did operate, were you operating efficiently at all? And that's where we look at variable costs. But again, I can't really look at per mile because your per mile is so far off. But here's the first thing that grabs my attention. $24,000 in maintenance.
Yep.
Wow.
It's bad.
Wow.
It's bad.
Now, my next question, because you think Matt gets a trophy, I'm going to give you the bigger trophy. I've never seen numbers this bad, ever. And not even close. I've never even seen numbers half this bad, probably because nobody would report them to me. I'm sure this kind of stuff happens a lot, but I don't ever get to see it. But here's the one thing that's really odd. You're still in business.
Yes.
That's incredible.
Yes.
So congratulations.
Well, here's the Well, I'll give you the caveat to the whole thing. You know how you've been saying, pay down, save, pay down, save.
Yep.
Right? And that's what I did.
Good.
But the tractor that I had, I bought it and I give entirely too much for it. It wasn't quite to the realm of a $300,000, $160,000 truck. Wasn't that bad. but it was bad enough.
Okay.
So through that year of 24, I couldn't do anything because of the whole eye thing. So thank God, and I mean that literally, for my wife, because she makes enough. She kept everything afloat, no problems. We don't owe a nickel on anything. House or nothing, not struck. I went ahead and paid off that truck because I didn't want her making the payments. So I took the pot of money that we had saved and took a hunk out of it, paid the truck off. Well, that was like $24,000.
Yeah.
And then you see the maintenance. Well,
Yeah.
when I got rid of the truck, I did a trade deal, ended up with this tractor. Well, you know how you get a tractor, you think, this one's in really good shape. Okay, until you drive it, and then you find stuff, you know.
Yeah,
you know
exactly.
how that goes.
Right.
Well, then I dumped $10,000 in this one. Well, there's 10 of the 25.
Yeah.
And that Volvo, it did me a good job. It could go up and down the road. It really did. The fuel mileage was good. The main problem and the main reason that I got rid of that truck is I lost my guy that was my buffer between corporate and me. I lost my guy. He left the job. So I didn't want to go to the dealer and pay $200 an hour because that's basically what it is. But every time that truck went there, and you have to go to the dealer with them because there's very few independents that'll touch them. And the ones that are, one's in North Carolina, one's in Minnesota. Ohio's nowhere around either one, really, doing what I do. So that's why I got rid of it, because every time I took it in, it had a comma every time. And it wasn't just a one in front of the comma. It was $2,000, $3,000, $5,000, $6,000 every time.
Yeah.
It's just the way it was. So I had to get rid of it. So now I got a DDEC 412.7. It doesn't have anything electronic except for the engine and my GPS and my telephone.
Nice.
That's it.
Nice and practical money truck, which is the absolute right move based on where you were. Minimize risk, maximize practicality. You know, I love finding a good story in a tragedy, and this is a tragedy, but for a lot of reasons. I remember everything you went through health-wise, and that was really rough. And here's what I want people to understand. We have a lot of people who are going to get into business in this coming year. I'm positive of it. We're in the best position I've ever been in to help people do that. But here's what I want them to understand. I'm just going to go through some numbers. You're on paper, and it doesn't even tell the whole story, but on paper, you were $42,000 in the hole. But I want people to understand what that means. What that means was if you did not have access to at least $42,000 in cash somewhere else, you would have been out of business. And even that doesn't tell the whole story. Because had you had $42,000 sitting in the bank, that would have only gotten you back to even. You have to be able to eat and pay the bills and keep the lights on. So, you know, you made the decision to run a profitable business, pay down debt, save cash. You have a spouse who has a good income, but that's all part of the planning. You know, if you have that spouse that has a good income, well, then that's a cushion, a buffer. You can take a little more risk. If you don't have that, you have to understand that. So I want people to understand that no matter how well I teach you how to start this business, there is a lot of risk. It's why I do the whole point in the beginning. I called it the SPY index, the success probability index, and I base it on two numbers. Somebody's net worth, because that tells us, do you have that pile of cash sitting there as a buffer, and how much? And how much does it cost you to live each year? And I create a number out of that, and I say, here's your chance of success, and here's your risk level. And I know a lot of people, I spend a lot of time on it, and I have people complain about it. Oh, come on, I know all this time. I know where my money is. Just get on with the truck stuff. Well, no, I'm not going to. I'm going to talk about all this other stuff that has nothing to do with engines and wheels and tires and fuel mileage and bumping docks. And I'm going to talk about money and business first, and I'm going to talk about it a lot because here's what I am really excited about. We just came through a pretty tough time. You had something that compounded that tough time. You had a personal health issue, which is the number 2 reason owner-operators go out of business. Number 1 is a maintenance issue. Number 2 is a personal health issue, but they both come back to, do you have enough money or not? You survived. We heard from Ted last Thursday. Did you listen to his call?
I did. I heard that.
What a great
Here's
story.
The thing, Kevin, and you're to steal Joel Murrow's line, spot on with that, because if you don't have your house of cards in order, you won't be able to have a truck.
No,
no
you
matter
won't.
how much you know
Right.
about trucking. You
Right.
have to have your house of cards in line, because if you think God doesn't have a sense of humor, think again, because I think sometimes he throws stuff at us just to see how we handle it.
So last year
Let's see what he can do.
Yeah. Yeah. Last year, it's also what we call the resistance. In the book, do the hard work. That saying that I use at the end of every show, do the hard work, not work hard. There's a big, big difference. They're worlds apart. Do the hard work. Because what happens is the resistance shows up. And we could call it God or Satan or North Korean brainwaves. I don't know what it is. But when you're trying to do things and accomplish things, and the bigger they are, the stronger the resistance seems to be. Stuff just shows up and gets in your way. And everything I teach is to try to help you be prepared that but I'm just so thrilled to see people who did the right stuff and then the resistance shows up or whatever we want to call it. And these are both your story and Ted's. They almost look like they're not survivable in business. And yet you guys both beat the odds. And I absolutely love that.
And of
So,
course,
I know I had a point there. Last year at the CMC, talk about a download from God. I had that's the old CMC where I used to have about 125 slides available to me to use up on stage. I think for this one I had 40 some. It was only a day and a half, so I think I had 40 some slides. And I got up that morning, the last morning, and I was going through my slides, kind of practicing the way I always do. And I had been up early, so I'd been working on it for about 4.5 hours. And right when I was finishing, I got this, I don't want to get too weird here, but I got this kind of feeling like you're blowing it here. You've been teaching this same stuff for not the exact same stuff, but the same fuel mileage, maintenance, working with brokers, understanding all that stuff that I teach at a CMC or I try to teach on the air, everything I do. And yet you're not getting the results you could be getting. And that's always been in the back of my mind. And you know what the difference is? I can break it down to the difference between strategy and tactics. And I've even done entire seminars on this topic, and people hate them. I stopped doing it because nobody likes these seminars. When I do surveys and I get feedback from people, so here's my strategy versus tactics seminar in as short as I can explain it. Strategies are very, very big picture, and they don't change very often, if at all. So in reality, my strategy since the first day I started helping an owner-operator with their accounting and taxes, which is kind of how I got started, my strategy is, how can I make owner-operators more successful? That's pretty big picture, right?
Yes, it is.
And really, I worded it wrong. It's not how can I, it is my strategy is I am going to make owner-operators more successful. And then we added one but it still fits in. In order to be successful, you have to be healthy. You know this. So I'm going to help them be healthy too. So that becomes a new strategy. I have to teach owner-operators how to be healthier. Those are big picture. Strategies are big picture. Tactics are the exact opposite. Tactics are how we get to the strategy, and they can change by the minute. And your strategies are going to be different than my strategies. Here's the thing. People love strategies. They hate tactics. People want me to get up on stage and tell them how to lower their fuel cost by 10 cents a mile, right? They get excited about that kind of stuff. Look, here's something I can do today. Kevin just told me if I put on this Fleet air filter, my engine's going to run better. My costs are going to go down. They love that stuff. And that's what I do 35 hours of on stage at the CMC. And it's been years now where I keep telling myself, you're not serving your customers as well as you could. But every time I try, I get such horrible feedback that I back off. And I say, look, if I'm serving my customer, I have to give them what they want. So that's what I've done my whole career until that morning. And that morning, I said, I'm not going to do this anymore. I'm at a place where I don't do this for the money. I do this because I want to help as many people as I can be as good as they can. And I'm not going to listen to the feedback. I'm going to do what I think is right, and I'm going to give them what I know they need, not what they want. And if my audience gets cut by 90%, then I'm going to do it anyway, and I'm going to be very happy helping the 10%. So I had 40-some slides. And I got up on stage and I started my slide presentation, and I don't think I got to number 3. I talked for the next day and a half and I never used the slides because I just talked about big picture strategy stuff. And guess what? The feedback was awful. And I'm just dealing with it.
Really?
And it was awful. People were pissed at me. Pissed. They still are. I still get messages about it. And I had to decide, in the CMC, because it's a year now, you're going to get tactics. You're going to get lots of them. In fact, for the people in the CMC, buckle up, because we're going to do a deep dive for the next probably 2 months into nothing but fuel mileage and maintenance. But we're 3/4 of the way through the program. And I've spent the majority of this time leading up to this talking about strategies. And I don't have very many people in the program this year. And I don't care anymore.
Wow.
I hope it grows, but I think I've earned the right, and I don't care if I've earned it or not. I have the money, so I don't care. I'm going to do what I think is right and what I want to do and what I think will help the people who really want to succeed. And that is, you got to suck it up and you got to get through the hard stuff, which is why you survived. And that's why Ted survived. And I'm not taking credit for it. You guys did the right stuff. And you did the hard work, and it paid off when it really, really matters. And that is my focus going forward now. I will spend a lot of time on business strategy, financial strategy, and health strategy first to build that foundation. Then we'll get to the tactics. But what I'm finding is most people aren't making it through that to get to the tactics.
Well, it kind of goes back to the old saying, and you're from Ohio, so I know you've heard it. You can't see the forest for the trees.
Yep.
Kind of like another one I'll steal from Dave Ramsey. I have a PhD in DUMB. You got to do all the dumb stuff to realize, well, that wasn't a very good idea. Maybe I ought to listen to this guy and go over here and do that.
Yeah.
You have to go through that in your own existence. And everybody's PhD in DUMB is different. Because what I did, you probably didn't do. So what you did, I probably didn't do. Everybody's different. I'm
gonna add to that. And Dave Ramsey can feel free to steal this one from me because I steal stuff from him all the time. If you manage to get your PhD in DUMB and you survive it, then you get to where I am today, and I now claim that I have a PhD in results.
That's good.
But here's what's happened to me over and over and over. I will sit down. I'll work on my material for a webinar, a seminar, whatever it happens to be. I do a lot of this stuff. I've spent a lot of time on stage, and I will always write it with big picture strategies in the beginning and then tactics if I can fill in. And when somebody asks me to do a webinar for an hour, I hate it. I don't even know what to begin to talk about in an hour. But here's what happens every single time, up until last year at the CMC. I will start off with the strategies, and I'm good at reading the audience, and every time I start to lose them, and I can see it, and I panic. Like, oh my God, they're going to be unhappy. They're the customer. I have to satisfy the customer, and I switch. I just blow through them, or I just stop, and I move to tactics, and I see the room change. People are engaged. They start taking notes. They're asking questions. And every time I say, I'm not going to do it this time. I'm going to do what I know is right. And I don't. I panic and I give in. And last year on stage at the CMC, I stopped doing that.
Well, I'll tell you a quick one about the deal that I have now with a different container hauling company. The girl asked me to do a delivery at 8 a.m., and from where I live to get where it was, I would have to get up at 2 a.m. to make it, to even have a chance.
Right.
And I text her back, and I said, Caitlin, I am sorry I have to tell you this, but I would rather tell you the truth. I am not good at getting up at 2 o'clock in the morning. If you give this to me and hold me to it, I am almost guaranteeing you a service failure, and I don't think that's fair to you or to me. So please, do you have something else? Because I'm going to screw it up. I know how I am. I'm not going to get up at 2 o'clock in the morning. Now, I kind of paid a price for that, I think. She got a little bit of an attitude about it, even though she never said a word. Not a word.
Right.
But I did a lot of sitting. We don't have anything. I go in this morning, had to get my quarterly inspection. They do it quarterly, even though it's a year. They do it quarterly. Got that done, passed. I'm talking to the terminal manager, because there's only two people, terminal manager and then her. That's it. And I said, Dave, have you ever seen it this slow? I have never seen it this bad in over 20 years of pulling these things. Never.
Right.
He said, oh, no. He said, no. He said, actually, we're picking up pretty good. I said, well, then let me ask you a question, Dave.
Right.
He said, what's that? And he's a super nice guy. I said, did I do something wrong?
Right.
I don't know what it is for sure. What did I do? Because I'm 1 or 2 days a week, and that's the truth.
Yeah.
Not because I told them I wouldn't. It's just
no, you did the right thing.
Well, no,
Herschel?
Lo and behold, it wasn't 20 minutes. The girl came in. I get a text. She gives me a Brookville for today. She gives me a Mansfield for tomorrow. I got one Friday, 3 days in a row. So tell me that there wasn't something to that.
Oh, there absolutely was.
Am I wrong to just simply, I'd rather tell you the truth. I'm not good at getting up at 2 in the morning. I'm just not.
You did the right thing.
I'll just tell you the truth.
You did the hard work. And here's what I have to hope, because I am suffering the same thing, that our CMC numbers are down, and everybody wants to know why. Like I said, I can't do the live CMC without sponsors. If sponsors don't see asses in the seats, I won't have sponsors anymore. And I have to hope.
I was at 2015. Man, that was good.
Yeah.
Oh, that was good.
Yeah, that was a good one. Here's the thing. I will promise you, you've been through the CMC. It was good. I know it was good. This is so much better, and yet my numbers are down. It's better in a lot of reasons. One, I've gotten better at writing the material. I have better material because I'm not giving in to the pressure. I'm teaching the things that really make people successful. It's easier to absorb. The biggest, I don't even want to call it a complaint, because our reviews of the CMC were always over the top good. But if we asked for people, what could we do better? It was always, there's so much material we can't absorb it. That was when it was 2 days. So we made it 3. They said the same thing. We made it 4. They said the same thing. We made it 5, and they still said that. So now you have a year to absorb this material. But with all these improvements, I'm struggling to get half the numbers I used to get. So my hope is, because I'm going to keep doing it this way no matter what. I said, I don't care. I will teach 10 people to do it right if I have to. But my hope is when you do the right things for the right reason, that maybe there is a lot of short-term pain. By short-term, I mean almost a year now, that it gets better. That if you just stick with it and keep doing the right stuff for the right reasons and do the hard work, it gets better. And in your case,
part of the enemy
it looks like maybe it already is turning around for you.
Yeah, part of the enemy that you have with that CMC, from 40 years old and above, there's a high chance that they're not the technical kind of people. And when you say Zoom, what's that? I have that on my camera.
So
under 40, they know all about it. I got a feeling that might be part of what you're fighting.
You hit on it. We have identified that too. So look, we can't deliver this stuff live. It's not going to happen. I mean, it's too expensive. It's too hard for people to get there. Even when I do, I don't have enough time. So this will always have a virtual component. But we do work to make it as easy as possible, including right now, and I'm not going to wait till next year, we are already testing doing the live video in the Tribe site. Because you don't have to have Zoom and another program, and Zoom's technical, and it's got a bunch of features in there that I just don't need anyway. I mean, all I do is you watch me talk, and you can see my screen. Well, we can now do that on the Tribe site, and I do it a couple times a week now for the coffee get-together in the morning and our product showcases, and we're getting ready to move the CMC to that. And I'm going to try it, and I don't see why it won't work, and it's so much easier. It's $3 a month to be in our Tribe site. We can't make it any cheaper. And if you're already in there, you don't do anything different. You're just in there, and you'll get a notice and say, it says Kevin's live. And there I am, and you just watch. No connecting, no codes, no goofing around with all that stuff. The biggest thing you'll deal with is your internet strong enough so that everything works good.
Right. Technology frustration is what's hurting.
Oh, it's real.
Virtual.
It's real, no doubt.
It really is.
Well, here's another example.
Well,
would you say that my show and material is better now than it was when I was on Sirius?
Oh, not even close. Yes.
Then why do I only have 10% of the audience? Technical. Sirius was easy. I've
told many people about your show, what you're doing, how you're doing it, that it's an app, that it's a freebie. And the response that I get most of the time, them damn apps, I
know.
don't know nothing about that. I ain't going to screw around with it. I said, I'll put it on your phone for you. Let me see your phone.
Thank you.
It's free. It doesn't cost you a nickel except for data usage, possibly. But most everybody has unlimited data. And they still don't want to do it.
You hit it.
It's kind of like the profit gauges at $19.
I know.
That is bar none the best $19 I have ever spent. I know guys that still use a damn green ledger book.
I know. We have a term around here for it.
You can do it in 15 minutes. 15 minutes, and you're done.
We have two terms for what you just talked about. One of them, we actually refer to it as app fatigue. People are tired of downloading an app every time they have to do something. The one thing around here where I live that makes me crazy is land is pretty limited around here. So even though we're kind of out in the country and it's small towns, sometimes parking is an issue. So almost every place I go to Wingfoil on the river is paid parking. And it's been paid parking for a while, but you used to walk up to a machine with your credit card. And that was hard enough to get through the damn screen there. Whatever happened to where you put a quarter in the meter? But now they're all app-based, and I bet I have 5 different parking apps on my phone. I get tired of it too. Don't make me download an app to do one thing. If you've noticed, we're combining our apps. Fuel Gauges and Audio Road are now the same app. And that's why we call it app fatigue, and we know we have to overcome that. And then there's just the big picture, and I have this technological fatigue. I'm tired of all the technology that I have to keep relearning.
Well, I will tell you on the joining of your apps, I still use the old Fuel Gauges app for one primary reason. It's easier to do, for one, but the other one, you enter in your gallons and your miles and all the pertinent information, and you hit go to save the entry. But the new way doesn't show you your history of MPG, and I like looking at the history of MPG.
So
now you can get there, but it's another step. But the old one, you just enter it, and boom, it pops up. It shows your 30, 60, or 90, however you got it set, and then it shows your history by tank as the screen goes down.
So I am making a note, and when I talk to Aaron today, I'm going to see if we can fix that or at least make it an option.
Yeah, now, I haven't used the new one that's on the broadcast app. I have used it a couple of times, and I found that difference. I don't like that. So see, I'm doing it. So
I know.
I went back to the old one because it's simpler.
Yeah.
The new terminal that we have, I go there today to do the inspection. I couldn't get in the door. I'm knocking on the door. Somebody comes to the door. Well, you got to have your key. I said, what key? I've never been here. Well, you got to have the app. I said, what app? So they actually set it up. You have to put an app.
Yeah.
They have to email you some damn code. And then your telephone is a key card that you put up to the reader to get in the door.
One more.
Really?
Yeah, one more app story, and then we'll move along. I was at the Cardio Miracle conference, and part of it was they took us all to the Tucker conference, and we had VIP seats, and it was awesome. But the day of the event, we're all hanging out at the conference, and we know we're going to Tucker that night, and we don't have tickets. Because we didn't arrange for all this. We're waiting to see, are they going to hand us tickets or what are they doing? Well, you got to download an app. All right, here we go again. But the user experience was horrendous. Everybody had some sort of a mistake that wasn't working. That's all everybody was talking about all day. Were you able to get your tickets? Are we sure this is right? You going to be able to get in when we get there? We had like an hour and 20-minute drive up and down the mountain every time because we were up in Park City. And the entire ride on the van was nothing but a discussion of this person still doesn't have their ticket. We're trying to help them. We got 2 people looking into it. Somebody give them another email address so we can try this again. And my daughter's going to an event and she's dealing with the same thing. These ticket event apps seem to be just awful.
Oh, yes. You ought to try using the ones at the railroad to go in and out, to take a container in or to pick one up. You ought to use them. Oh, boy.
Herschel, I said our last story. This is the last story. I talked about this a couple months ago, the fact that in many, many things, and I'm the technology guy. I love all this stuff. I have deleted the apps. When I fly, I thought I was the coolest thing ever because I was like one of the first people to walk up with, my ticket right on my phone. I'm not using that stupid paper ticket. I use paper tickets now because I don't care how good they make this app. It is not as simple as a paper ticket. And if technology doesn't make my life easier or do something I couldn't do without it, then I don't want it anymore. I can get on the plane just fine with the paper ticket until they get rid of them. And when they do, then I guess I'll have to go back to the phone. But for now, I have deleted a bunch of stuff that I used to do with apps because I just realized it's easier without the app.
Well, I have one more thing, and then I have 2 health points that I have to tell you.
All right.
That's why I like this company that I'm with now. They go so short a distance that we're able to use the exemption for local. So I just use a time card. When I start my ELD, I write on the paper what time I started. That's it. So
perfect.
That's why I'm going to stay right here.
Yep.
I don't have to screw around with some damn tablet telling me whether or not I'm allowed to take a leak. No.
Yes, I know.
On an ELD.
I
No.
get it. I get it. Yep.
Oh, so on the health side, two things real fast. The dizzy, weird headaches and all that constant that was driving me fat shit crazy, it's
Mhm.
gone. Guess why?
Why?
Chugging Light Balance. Not quite a half a bottle a day, like you said. But a good 3, maybe 4 capfuls. It's gone. It
Good.
doesn't bother me anymore.
Good. So I was on the right track
The
with
other
that. So real quick, because there's a funny
You
story.
were.
I'm pretty sure it was Brian, the one we just heard the numbers from. I think he called me last week and he said, "What's this stuff about you
Yeah, he
chugging a half a bottle of Light Balance?" And I said, "Well, you got to kind of put it into context. Sometimes I exaggerate to get people's attention."
And then the other one, now tell me if you ever heard of this. I have Dr. Wolfson's decaffeinated, totally mold-free, pesticide-free. They don't decaf it with the chemicals. They decaf it with water.
Yep.
You couldn't get any better coffee than what that is. You just couldn't. So one day I always call it an epiphany, kind of a light bulb moment on the cartoon, right?
Yeah.
I wonder if it's that damn coffee, because I got up and I was okay. And I had my bacon and eggs, of course, and a cup of just straight black coffee. And about an hour later, here come the headache. But I just wonder. So I stopped completely. Now in the morning, I have my water with Light Balance in it, no coffee, not even decaf, and the headaches aren't coming on. Then I got the bright idea, well, let's try it again and see what happens. I could almost hear you saying it. So I did. Well, guess what? That entire day I felt awful.
So the only
The
thing
next
that
day, back to the water and electrolytes, and it hasn't hit me since.
so the only thing that comes to
Maybe
mind.
I'm allergic to coffee. I don't know.
That's where I was going. I wonder if you do a fit test if coffee would show up. It would almost have to be in the top category if it was going to cause those kind of issues.
I did a fit test, but it's been years ago.
Yeah,
Maybe even Kim was still around.
Yeah, that would.
And I don't remember I don't remember coffee showing up.
Yeah, well, everything changes. But here's the other thing. Yeah, and I've always said this, where Dr. Wolfson and I just do things differently, and there's a lot of reasons. His is test, don't guess. Mine is guess until we have to test. And you guessed, and it worked, so why test? You got the result you wanted. That's all I care about.
And here's the thing. So now that I have no coffee, the only thing I drink now is water. That's it.
Yeah, good.
All the antioxidants and all the good stuff that is in coffee that Dr. Jack says will help your heart, help all kinds of things in your system. How much of a detriment am I in because I'm not getting the good stuff from coffee now?
None. Here's why
Not enough to matter.
Here's why we know. Hunter-gatherers did not have Starbucks.
No.
Coffee is
I call it $5.
Yeah, coffee is a fairly new thing in the human diet. So if something wasn't part of the hunter-gatherer diet, you can tell me all the superfood stuff you want. I don't believe it so much anymore.
Right. All right, Kevin. I'll let you be. So I'm making progress. I'm not lost any weight really yet,
well,
but I'm starting to feel good at least.
I have
somewhere.
I have some new ideas, so you want to be listening Wednesday.
All right, I'll do that.
All right. Thanks for the call. Good stuff. I'm glad you survived. Let's go to Alberta. Wayne, welcome to the program.
Hi, Kevin. How are you?
Good. What's on your mind today?
Oh, great on. The first thing was about the Bank of KR, or whatever we're going to call it, the Bank of Let's Truck.
Yeah.
Does that apply to Canadian-only drivers? Or would it, do you think?
Let me, hold on. You guys are making me work today. I got to get back to my notes because I don't know the answer to that, but that is such a great question that, there it is. I will make sure that I put it in my notes because we are having calls almost every day now.
Yeah, okay.
That's a great question. I can't believe I haven't thought of that one yet. I should have an answer on that before the end of today.
Yeah, because the whole shipping thing, of course, that's one of the reasons why we can't really support the store like you'd like to, because
hey,
shipping, as you know.
Look,
but anyway,
Wayne, that's all going away when you guys
go ahead.
when you guys become the 51st state. I'm sure all those problems are going away.
Yeah, you bet. Yeah, we can only pray for good things up in Canada here shortly. But anyway,
you guys better push for it because Greenland might beat you to the punch.
Yeah. Let's not even get into politics this morning, Mike. Goodness gracious.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, no, I'm praying for you guys, man, on the 20th here. But anyway, let's just move on. All so, right. If that was a real thing, even for Canada, let's say I have a Visa card, and the Visa card is issued through a certain, let's call them Bank A. Now, when I go to pay my Visa card, I don't pay Bank A. I pay Visa, the trademark, right? Like the company Visa. So would that be the same thing? Like if it was available in Canada, you would have some sort of debit card or credit card or something through Let's Truck?
This is, just so we're clear, and this changes everything. I know we kind of confuse these two things in our mind, and we shouldn't, but this is a debit card. So in a debit card, really, a debit card is just an electronic way to manage what we used to call a checking account. So there's never really a bill to pay because you're always just using your own money.
Okay, so the money is in the bank of Let's Truck or in the bank of Kevin Rutherford? Or?
Yes. Actually, it's in the ether. It's in the cloud. And that's the advantage here. This is why, and we don't realize this. We think, okay, that person got 3%. There's a credit card charge of 1.9%. There's this, there's that. There's all these transaction fees and processing fees. And I didn't understand that until we got into this business, and we have to process those credit cards. And all of that goes away because there are no physical buildings and people doing all of this. So those fees now are up for grabs. And we get to pick and choose, and, it's going to get very competitive. So now, and again, I'm still having a hard time getting my head around the numbers. We're just starting to dive into numbers now on this deal. Yeah. But what's happening is there's quite a bit of money available in there that used to go to all these banks and processing companies. And now we get to split that. I'm going to take some so we can we couldn't have afforded to offer a service like this before, a service. Again,
that sort of, just to interrupt you for 1 second here, that kind of leads me to my next question. I know you have the same similar thing in the U.S., but in Canada, if I put my money in Bank A, it's up to $100,000 or something like that. It's covered by Canadian Deposit Insurance Corporation or something like that.
Yes.
And I'm sure you have a certain amount of... So in the cloud, is there still that same protection, or do you know that? Or
you just gave me my second question. Thanks for calling, because as many questions as I've had about this stuff, I haven't had these really good, practical, everyday questions, because my mind's still going with all the possibilities. So, great question. Yeah. Any protection?
Yeah, is it insured?
Any protection on deposits? Great question.
In Canada, I believe it's $100,000. I believe, but and that's Canadian money, which is like $1.82 American or something. Like that.
I was going to say it's like Monopoly money, isn't it? It's all fun colors and
pretty much.
Yeah, it's even pretty. Yeah. So in the U.S., it's far more complicated than that because it's per person, per institution, per account. So you can get a lot more protection by spreading your money out. Hopefully, we don't have to deal with any of that kind of stuff, but there has to be some sort of protection here. So, but I'll find out exactly what that is and what that means.
Yeah, and I'm sure in Canada there's more details than just $100,000, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But anyway, so that's fine. That's great for that subject. My next subject is this one, if we could change real quick.
Sure.
The show you had with David Owen, and I think Joel was on it there last week from NASDAQ.
Yeah.
Okay. It's a critique, not a criticism, but I can't even listen to it, Kevin. David Owen was so overpowering on the radio, his volume, that I couldn't I literally had to sit there with my hand on the knob, turning the volume up, turning the volume down, turning the volume up, turning the volume down. So I still haven't listened to that whole show. I just can't do it.
Yeah, it's a shame too. Because
I just wanted to let you know. I don't know if anybody else told you about it or not, but it was horrible.
We fight with this for a couple reasons, and it's good to talk about once in a while. So there was really good information in there. David is one of the few people left in the world that still uses a landline phone. He has no cell phone. So one of the struggles
I've heard you talk about him many times, yeah.
So one of the struggles, and look, we had this struggle on Sirius, and they've got $1 gazillion worth of equipment and an engineer that's supposed to be there monitoring all that stuff, and yet we always got this complaint then. Well, now I have no engineer. Yeah. I mean, we don't charge for the show. I can't afford an engineer. We pay a call screener every day, basically out of our pocket because we have to have a call screener. But I'm kind of the engineer on the fly, and this is why we're struggling to build our own platform because I don't want this to be a problem anymore. And here's another problem.
Right.
Cell phone signals get iffy, so you got to deal with that. We have some people that are in really loud trucks, some people that are in really quiet trucks. So everybody wants a different volume. But then we run into this issue of why is this caller's volume? And when I have multiple callers or guests, let's say guests first, when I have multiple people, they are coming in on the same audio feed. So I don't have the ability to turn one up and one down. If we had all individual feeds coming into a big board with an engineer there, that's what the engineer is supposed to do. He's supposed to balance all of those feeds. Well, even if I had an engineer, our system doesn't allow us yet. Now, we were building a system that would have at least allowed that. I would have had to manage it myself, and I could have probably pulled it off most of the time. But now we stop kind of midstream and we're reevaluating saying, wait a minute, technology has radically changed. We should be able to use AI to do this on the fly. So we went back to the drawing board and we're kind of seeing if we could rebuild this and eliminate that problem forever.
Yeah, and I thought that you had mentioned that at some point that AI would be able to do that with the recordings for sure. But and again, it's a critique, certainly not a criticism.
Oh no, and look, we take and want both critique and criticism.
Oh yeah.
If we did something wrong and you're pissed off about it and it's a full criticism, call me and tell me, and call me on the air. It's.
Oh, yeah.
We want to know because we want to do what we do better, and the only way you're going to know is when you get that feedback. Now, very seldom do we ignore that kind of feedback, but I just talked about a big case where I'm ignoring that feedback. If people complain about the content of my program anymore, I don't care. Go find another program.
Yeah. No, I love the content. It's
good.
My criticism, here you go, and I'll let you go. I've just arrived at my customer here, but is you didn't contact me 30 years earlier. There you go. There's your criticism.
Tell your customer we said
anyway,
hey.
Continued success. I'll talk to you later.
Thank you. All right. Let's, you know what? I am going to turn off the phones and make this the last call of the show because we're almost done anyway, and speaking of David Owen, I tried to get a hold of him this morning. Now he's trying to get a hold of me. I got about 100 other things to do today. So, Gerald, no rush, but you get the final word.
Hey, Kevin. How's it going, buddy?
Good. What's on your mind today?
All right. Well, we was talking about, like, business and... All right. Thank you. Mark, I know Mark was talking about, and it kind of hits home that we want to be, like, disciplined, like, he talks about that we want to be disciplined, that if I'm not doing a good job, you want to make sure that I am doing a good job. Let me know, hey, man, if I'm not doing my best, then tell me, because I want to, give the most value that I can. And that's...
Absolutely. Yeah, that is, in my opinion, that is the single most important measure of business. We measure all this other stuff for that one reason,
Oh, yeah.
Am I delivering the best value I can possibly to deliver to my customers? And as long as I do that, I should grow my customers as well.
Yeah, it's like you say, Larry Wingett, use your uniqueness to exploit it in the service of others.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, that's why I stole that line the first time I heard it.
Yeah, you have to get him back on the show sometime.
I can't. He's retired.
Really
he's retired.
Oh, he's retired.
Yeah, I even reached out once. When was it? There was something pretty big going on, kind of related to trucking, but I don't remember what it was. And I thought, boy, Larry would be great to hear from on this. And I reached out to him, and he said, not going to happen. He said, I get several requests a week, and he said, I'm really retired. He said, if I keep taking these, I'll never retire. He said, I'm just retired. So he earned it.
Yeah, he earned it.
Yeah, I miss him too.
Yeah. How you doing on your keyboard? I've seen your video that you did. That's a really cool, neat little keyboard you got.
It is. Yeah, it is. It's a very cool tool, and it makes it so fun that I don't want to quit practicing. So now I'm a little cautious about. Well, I want to practice every day, but I'm a little cautious because I sit down and then I don't want to quit. The other thing, I'm moving very, very slow and steady. I think Lisa's not far off from being ready from Carnegie Hall. She rocks on that thing.
Yeah.
She can pick up a new song and start to get it. If I even attempt a new song, it'll be a week before you would want to even listen to me try it. But I'm having a ball with it. It's a lot of fun. And I know if I stick with it, I'll be able to do exactly what I want to do, which is just learn how to memorize my favorite songs and sit down and play them.
You have to sit down and play it.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe someday I'll get to the reading music. I don't know. Maybe if I can get good enough at memorizing stuff, I won't bother.
Yeah, I don't read the sheet music, so I just play by ear.
Yeah, that's
all it's done for us.
Right now, I don't even understand the whole play-by-ear thing. I kind of, when I listen to music now, I try to pick out the piano parts, but I don't, all I'm doing now is like the same way you get really good at a video game. It's just pure repetition and muscle memory.
Yep, and practice. We hear with your ears, like see with your ears.
Yeah, I'm not there yet. I'm not there. For me, it literally is, I know this sounds weird, but I could close my eyes. I want to get to a point. I can't do this yet, but this is my goal. I want to be able to close my eyes so I don't have to see anything to play, and you could turn off the sound, and I would still be able to play all the keys. So for me, it's not by ear. It is really just pure muscle memory and repetition.
Yep, that's it.
That's what I'm shooting for. So we'll see how it goes.
We'll see how it goes. But, so Kevin, I was going to tell you real quick that my friend, his sister, went to the doctor and she had colon cancer. And the doctor looked at her and said, well, at least you got this kind. You can beat it. I was like, that's what? The doctor's telling you, it's good to have this kind of colon cancer, but you can defeat it. You can beat it.
So
isn't that crazy?
Is she in treatment for this now?
Oh, she had to have part of her colon removed.
Oh boy, are you?
And that's just cancer free.
Oh, she is. Okay. I was going to say, if she's still in treatment, there is some incredible results going on with a couple of really simple drugs, ivermectin being one of them. The horse paste.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, incredible. Ivermectin, fenbendazole, and menbendazole. And there's a doctor I follow that just has story after story after story. So if anybody, wants to reach out, well, it's Dr. Malik, Malik. You can find him on X. You can read story. I bookmark all of his stories, so I have a ton of them. Just incredible results on all kinds of cancers.
Was it you telling me, or was somebody on the show was like that? tractors that they're going to have to start having a prescription for ivermectin.
No, ivermectin for humans has always been a prescription. They're going to start making it a prescription for animals. For animals, you could always just go to the farm store and buy it in a paste, and then you just dose it by weight. And people started doing that because even when the doctor prescribes you ivermectin, the pharmacies are refusing to fill it, which is outrageous. The doctor that we've got coming on here soon, in the next week or two, that will be our topic. She's being sued as we speak. She's in court right now. The Texas Medical Board is suing her over this. And she's pushing to make it the opposite. She wants it to be over the counter for humans. She says it's that safe. So
we'll have to get, speaking of doctors, you have to get Dr. Ken Berry back on. I was really, he's one of my favorites.
Yeah, that is another good one. We should get him on the schedule. All right, Gerald, I'm going to jump out of here.
All right, Kevin, we'll take it easy.
Yep, get on with my day. Thanks for the call, and we will see everybody back here tomorrow for the Power Hour. Also, if you want to join me for coffee tomorrow, it's really simple. If you're not if you are a member, just log in tomorrow, and I'll be on at 7 a.m. Pacific time. So that's 10 a.m. Eastern. If you aren't a member, just go to letstrucktribe.com. letstrucktribe.com. It is $3 a month. I know, try not to break the bank there, but we got some costs to cover here. And Tuesday and Thursday mornings I do this, and it's just pure fun. I don't have any agenda whatsoever. Totally on the fly. So we will see you for that tomorrow. I'd love to see about 100 people in there. I think we had 60 last week. Let's shoot for 100 this week. Be safe, be profitable, be fit and healthy. Always do the hard work and master the journey.